Chapter 1262. Xiao Hua. Zhong Qingxiao looked at Xiao Hua with a complicated expression, her tone somewhat cold. Maybe master and eldest senior brother didn't pay attention to you, but I was right beside you just now. I originally wanted to secretly explain master's technique and movements to you, but who would have thought that even I, a 10th level aura refining second senior brother, couldn't understand this technique. You're only at the first level, yet you could understand it the first time you saw it. You could use your fingers to imitate it. Xiao Hua was a bit shocked just now. He only focused on Xiao Yuehong's technique and didn't notice that his abnormality was actually seen by Zhong Qingxiao. Just as Xiao Hua was about to speak, Zhong Qingxiao shook her head slightly. Xiao Hua, ever since the 10,000 Poisons sect attacked my Death Flower Great Formation, you seem to have changed into a different person. You've changed a lot in the past 3 years. Could it be that you were taken over by someone else? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Second senior brother, you're really funny. I'm only a first-level aura refining boy. If someone wanted to take over my body, why wouldn't they look for you? Instead, they looked for me. Zhong Qingxiao spat on the ground. Who knows? Maybe you were taken over 3 years ago. Alas, I don't know myself. Xiao Hua shook his head sadly. It's already been 3 years. I don't have the slightest impression of my past. Then you should think about it again, Zhong Qingxiao said meaningfully. But there's one thing I can tell you. Last time, you found the small cave where the absorption fruit was. I didn't go in. But today, I seem to have drilled into this cave when I was a child. There doesn't seem to be any spiritual plants inside. Zhong Qingxiao used the word seems twice in a row, and her tone wasn't certain. Second senior brother. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly again. Just as he was about to explain, Zhong Qingxiao waved her hand to stop him. This Death Flower Great Formation and Yellow Flower Ridge are the places I grew up in. Master, eldest senior brother, and junior sister are also the people closest to me in this world. I definitely won't let them hurt anyone. No matter who it is, as long as they dare to hurt them, even if I go to the 9th heaven, the 9th level of hell, even if I fall into the devil's path or the ghost path, I won't forgive them. Speaking up to here, Zhong Qingxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness as she coldly swept her gaze over Xiao Hua. These words sounded cold, but Xiao Hua's heart was warm. He calmly said, Second senior brother, although I don't know where I came from, and I can't remember all the things that happened in the past, I've lived on Yellow Flower Ridge for 3 years, and I know that master and senior brother have treated me well. Especially this time, when I went out, I felt the kinship of Shang Huaming. These 3 years have been like second senior brother in your 20s. Since second senior brother has the heart to protect Shang Huaming, how can I not? If it weren't for the fact that little brother's heart was set on killing Hua Ming, how could the heavens be moved? How did you let me find the spiritual herbs in a secret place? And the Peiyuan pill refined from these spiritual herbs, second senior brother, don't you need to take it? Zhong Qingxiao's eyes turned, and she immediately changed her expression. She reached out and hugged Xiao Hua, who was almost a head taller than her, and said with a smile, Good junior brother, second senior brother was just testing you just now. You've already taken out the precious spiritual herbs. Even if you're a spy from another sect, this sacrifice is really big. Second senior brother will not bicker with you on account of your contribution of the Peiyuan pill. Xiao Hua saw that Zhong Qingxiao had recovered her usual mischievous expression, and her face was relaxed, but her heart was absolutely not relaxed. He knew that this second senior brother was not just saying empty words, and was definitely not testing him. However, he did not have any intentions towards Shang Huaming, so naturally, he was not afraid of his so-called testing. Sect leader has promised that as long as I find the black bamboo grass, half of this Peiyuan pill will be mine. When the time comes, don't fight with me for it, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Come on, junior brother, look at your stingy appearance. Do you think senior brother cares about your Peiyuan pill? Zhong Qingxiao laughed and said, The Peiyuan pill is a pill that we've all taken together. If we take it again this time, I'm afraid the effect won't be great. Oh, why is that? Xiao Hua was a little puzzled. Zhong Qingxiao glanced at him and muttered, "You don't even know this. Looks like you're really not a spy." Then, she explained, the most essential aspect of the advancement of a realm is the improvement of one's cultivation base and the comprehension of the realm. However, at each stage, one can use pills to break through the realm. Of course, relying on pills to break through the realm has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that it can reduce the time of cultivation, and use rare pills to achieve 10 years or even dozens of years of cultivation. The disadvantage is that a pill is only useful for one realm. Taking it again and again will have no effect. Moreover, the magic power obtained from taking the pill is ultimately not from one's own cultivation, so there will be some impact on one's future cultivation. These effects may not be obvious when one's cultivation base is low. When one cultivates to a high level, it will appear. Zhong Qingxiao smiled bitterly. But, how many people can reach a high level of cultivation? Therefore, this pill has long become the main method of breaking through the realm. Otherwise, 100 Herbs Gate would not be so popular. Zhong Qingxiao mentioned 100 Herbs Gate for no reason, and clenched her teeth tightly. Xiao Hua was nervous and said anxiously, "Since you've already taken the Peiyuan pill, then." "Second senior brother, these pills refined by sect master, if you take them, won't they have no effect?" Seeing Xiao Hua anxious, Zhong Qingxiao blushed with shame for her guess just now. She patted Xiao Hua's shoulder and said, "It's okay. In the past, when we were poor, the Peiyuan pill we gave you was also squeezed out by master. We've been cultivating for so many years, how could we have enough Peiyuan pill to take? 1 or 2 Peiyuan pill were all exchanged from the market, and their quality was greatly reduced. It has little effect on the advancement of the realm. It's also because we've taken inferior Peiyuan pill before that master went deep into Yellow Flower Ridge this time to refine a better Peiyuan pill to help you and me advance in the realm." "That's good." Xiao Hua breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't easy for him to find an excuse to take out all the spiritual herbs. If they were useless, wouldn't it be annoying? But you, Xiao Hua, you've only just reached the first level of qi refining. If you take the Peiyuan pill refined by master and want to rely on Peiyuan pill to advance in the future, it'll be troublesome. You have to use something better than the Peiyuan pill. Zhong Qingxiao reminded him with concern, "If it were me, I would think about it carefully." "Thank you for the reminder, second senior brother." Xiao Hua said with a smile, "Little brother is already so big, but I'm still at the first level of qi refining. What level do you think I can cultivate to?" "Hee. Just pretend I didn't say anything." Xiao Hua Zhong Qingxiao smiled apologetically. She looked at the stable cauldron above the fire and said, "Just watch, this cauldron is really boring. Me, eldest senior brother, and junior sister can't do it." "Right, when you went out, do you still have the summoning talisman that master gave you?" "Yes, master didn't take a single one of those talismans, he said it was a reward for me." "That's good, you keep watch. If there's anything wrong, immediately inform master." "Yes, I understand, second senior brother," Xiao Hua said respectfully. After Zhong Qingxiao left, Xiao Hua sat cross-legged by himself, looking at the cauldron. His heart was in turmoil, not because of anything else, but because of Zhong Qingxiao's probing just now. "Yes, although I'm a disciple of Shang Huaming who hasn't entered the sect, but after all, I was picked up by the sect master from the foot of the mountain 3 years ago. My life and origin are unknown. I can't compare to eldest senior brother and second senior brother who grew up in Yellow Flower Ridge and know everything about me." Xiao Hua thought to himself. In these 3 years, he had gotten used to living in Shang Huaming and had already treated Shang Huaming as his own home. He had never thought about his past. 18 years, where did I spend my 18 years before this? Thinking about this, Xiao Hua took out the broken, snake-like small ring. This thing was the only thing on his body after he woke up. Perhaps this snake-like ring was the only proof of his life that he had found. But, this thing, what is it? Xiao Hua looked at it for a long time, but couldn't figure it out. Forget it, this thing is really hard to guess. I'd better stay in Shang Huaming and make Shang Huaming into a big sect. Only when Shang Huaming is famous in the country of Xi, or even the Xiaoyu continent, can I easily find my origin. Because of the spiritual herbs in his mind, Xiao Hua couldn't help but have lofty aspirations. He, second senior brother, is kind-hearted, but since I can grow the absorption fruit, I can naturally grow other spiritual herbs and other medicinal pills. It's not necessarily difficult. Xiao Hua put the snake-like ring into his space and thought to himself, but pill recipes and alchemy are big things. If I don't understand these, how can I get medicinal pills? That's right, Yi City. Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. I can take the spiritual herbs to Yi City to exchange for medicinal pills. But then Xiao Hua became depressed. If my cultivation doesn't improve, how can I dare to go to Yi City? I'm afraid I'll be targeted and robbed clean. Moreover, the medicinal pills in Yi City are scarce and not easy to exchange. The quality is also poor, so it's better to refine them myself. When will I have to ask the sect master to get me some yellow talismans for alchemy? I want to see if I can really refine pills. Thinking about this, Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and moved it slightly in front of his eyes. His 10 fingers were constantly moving, as if he was forming some kind of magic art. However, this magic art was completely based on the instinct of his hands. Xiao Hua didn't have the slightest memory of it, but it was this instinctive movement that seemed much more obscure and difficult than Xiao Yuehong's magic art. Under the pill furnace, the greenish-yellow earth fire swayed up and down. The bright flower stone on the stone wall was brightly lit. Inside the pill room, only Xiao Hua's figure was elongated by the light of the fire. He slightly waved his hand, casting his shadow on the stone wall behind him. Although there wasn't the slightest bit of spiritual energy gathering, that momentum, that movement, contained some kind of obscure, profound meaning. Alchemy was really boring. Aside from Xiao Yuhong coming over to take a look at the pill furnace at fixed times, forming a few hand seals, or casting a few yellow talismans, the rest had to face the dry and hot earth fire and the unromantic pill furnace. Therefore, although it was agreed that 4 people would be on duty in advance, ever since Xiao Hua began his shift, the people in the pill room had never changed. However, it was precisely because Xiao Hua was the only one watching over the pill furnace that every time Xiao Hua closed his eyes to cultivate at night, a strange kind of starlight would shoot over, and there would always be some starlight enveloping the pill furnace. -5. Chapter 1263. Alright, 7 days have passed. This Peiyuan pill should be almost ready. When Xiao Yuhong stood in front of the pill furnace and said this, Gong Mingwei and the other 2 gathered in the pill room. Zhong Qingxiao winked at Xiao Hua. Gong Mingwei and the others also nodded at him. Xiao Hua smiled and returned the greeting. Everyone else felt that he was working very hard in the pill room. However, Xiao Hua understood that although he hadn't found any clues about his origins in the past 7 days, when faced with the pill furnace, the earth fire, the spells Xiao Yuhong used on the pill furnace, and the use of various yellow talismans, he already knew that he must have been able to concoct pills in the past. Moreover, after observing the entire concoction process of the Peiyuan pill, Xiao Hua knew in his heart that if the conditions permitted, he might be able to concoct the same pill. Of course, this condition required a series of yellow talismans, earth fire, and even a fire gourd. Xiao Yuhong stepped forward and scanned the pill furnace with his divine sense. A satisfied expression appeared on his face. How is it? Father, this Peiyuan pill. Can we use it? Xiao Xianrui saw Xiao Yuehong's expression and was overjoyed. It shouldn't be a problem, because there was still one more spell to be cast. Xiao Yuhong didn't dare to make any assertions. Everyone, back off a bit. Xiao Yuhong thought for a moment, then took out a yellow talisman from his storage bag. With a solemn expression, he activated his magic power. The yellow talisman instantly turned into a dark green brilliance and shot into the pill furnace, disappearing without a trace. This is the core condensing talisman. Zhong Qingxiao lowered her voice and said to Xiao Hua. Cough. Cough. Xiao Yuhong coughed twice and swept his gaze behind him. Zhong Qingxiao shrunk her neck slightly and didn't dare to say another word. Xiao Yuhong turned to look at the pill furnace. He took a deep breath and cast the spell in his hand. Just as Xiao Hua expected, he also knew that the next spell should be used to condense the pill. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Xiao Yuehong's forehead was covered in sweat. Bad tilde. Seeing that Xiao Yuhong made a mistake in his hand sign, Xiao Hua immediately yelled in his heart. Xiao Yuhong also knew that he made a mistake, so he didn't dare to be negligent. He clapped his hand and immediately took out a yellow talisman from his storage bag. Without looking at it, he activated his Fa Li and threw it into the cauldron. Because of Xiao Yuehong's mistake, the cauldron let out a slight crackling sound. Now that it was under the control of the yellow talisman, the crackling sound gradually disappeared and the buzzing sound inside the cauldron also gradually became softer. With a soft sound, the sound of the alchemy furnace stopped abruptly. Haha, great. Xiao Yuhong clapped his hands and said, "Great achievement." As he spoke, he waved his hand and said with a smile, "Mingwei, go collect the pills." Pill collection? Xiao Hua was slightly taken aback as he thought to himself, it seems that there should also be a method to pull and collect pills, right? It could be seen that Gong Mingwei went up as a matter of course. Following Xiao Yuehong's finger, the cauldron's hole opened. Gong Mingwei took out dozens of long and sized emerald green pills from inside. "Master, there are actually 24 pills." Gong Mingwei counted for a moment and said with some surprise, "Master's alchemy skills have advanced by leaps and bounds again. I remember that there were only 18 Wu Kang pills last time." "Hey, is that so?" Xiao Yuhong was obviously also taken aback. With a sweep of his divine sense, he understood. He looked back at Xiao Hua and said, "This is not Master's credit. It's because the quality of the absorption fruit and black bamboo grass that Xiao Hua found were good. That's why I was able to break through from 18 to 24 pills." Xiao Hua's eyes turned slightly as he asked curiously, "Sect Master, why did you break through 6 pills at once?" "Hehe, I'll let you know. In our Dawn Rain continent, alchemy has always been based on 6 pills. It's either 1 or 6 pills. If you go further, it'll be 12 pills, 18 pills, and so on. I heard that when one's alchemy skills have reached the realm of perfection, one can refine 36 pills at once. Master can usually only refine 12 pills. Occasionally, I can refine 18 pills. As for these 24 pills, this is also the first time." Xiao Hua nodded with a slight frown. He felt that alchemy should be based on 9 pills. Gong Mingwei placed the 24 Peiyuan pill into 24 jade bottles and placed them in front of Xiao Yuhong. With a smile on his face, Xiao Yuhong waved his hand and split the bottles into 2. He pointed with his finger and said, "Xiao Hua, these 12 Peiyuan pill are yours." Gong Mingwei and the others stared blankly. They had heard Zhong Qingxiao mention this before, but they didn't take it seriously. "Sect Master, this won't do. Disciples' cultivation base is shallow. Let senior brother and senior sister take these pills. They need them more than I do." Xiao Hua naturally couldn't accept it and hurriedly waved his hand. "Hehe, Xiao Hua, didn't Master say it that day? If you can find the black tusk grass, Master will give you half of the refined Peiyuan pill. Now, this absorption fruit and black tusk grass were found by you. If Master doesn't promise, wouldn't it seem unfair? Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple only hopes that my Shong Huaming will prosper day by day and that all senior brother and senior sister's cultivation base will break through to the foundation establishment realm. As for disciple, I'll only take 2 pills. These 12 Peiyuan pill are really a waste." Xiao Hua said sincerely, "Moreover, even if senior brother and senior sister can't take so many, Sect Master can leave them. Next time, we can exchange them for some spirit stones and the like." "Hehe, Master must do what he said. Otherwise, it will be detrimental to cultivation. If you don't take it, it will delay Master's cultivation." Xiao Yuhong shook his head and said, "Moreover, the Peiyuan pill just now only used 30% of the spirit grass. If Master wants, I should be able to refine more than 40 Peiyuan pills. Yours are nothing." This. Xiao Hua was a little embarrassed. "Take it, Xiao Hua. You contributed the most this time. You almost lost your life in the 100 Herbs Gate. You deserve it." Gong Mingwei said with a smile. "That's right, don't be so wishy-washy. Master told you to take it, so take it. If you don't want it, just give it to me." Zhong Qingxiao also said. "Okay, Then disciple thanks sect master for the generous gift. Xiao Hua bowed and thanked him. Then, he said to Xiao Shenrui and the others, if senior sister and senior brother don't have enough Peiyuan pill, just ask me for more. Of course, of course. Xiao Shenrui smiled. She should be able to get 3 Peiyuan pill this time. It should be enough for her to absorb the medicinal power for a long time and increase her magic power. Didn't Xiao Yuhong say that? There was still 70% of the spirit grass that hadn't been used. Once they absorbed the medicinal power of the Peiyuan pill, they could refine the Peiyuan pill. Would they be afraid of not having enough Peiyuan pills? 10 or so Peiyuan pills would be enough to increase her cultivation from the 10th layer of qi refining to the 11th layer of qi refining. Everyone was grinning from ear to ear as they divided the Peiyuan pill. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand and said, the 100 days of reflection are not up yet. Go back to the tranquil cave and take the Peiyuan pill. Cultivate diligently and strive to enter the 11th layer of qi refining as soon as possible. Yes, master. Gong Mingwei and the other 2 saluted. Xiao Hua, you should also go accompany them. If anything happens while you're taking the Peiyuan pill, tell your senior martial brothers immediately. Yes. Xiao Hua bowed, but after thinking for a moment, he hesitated and said, Sect master, disciple, has something that I don't know if I should say or not. Xiao Yuhong was very happy. He waved his big sleeve and said, speak. It's like this, disciple. Disciple thinks that I know how to refine medicinal pills, but if I really have to refine them, disciple doesn't know how to start. So, disciple earnestly requests sect master to let disciple come to the pill room more often in the future. Oh? Although Xiao Yuehong's tone sounded surprised, his eyes didn't show the surprise that Xiao Hua had imagined. Xiao Yuhong continued, you are still young, and your cultivation isn't enough. As for the art of pill refining, you shouldn't know. You've probably seen it before or stayed in the pill room, right? If staying in the pill room reminds you of anything, feel free to come. Thank you for your kindness, sect master. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. Xiao Yuhong returned to Mincy Peak, and Xiao Hua followed Gong Mingwei and the others to Lone Staff Peak. Gong Mingwei and the others had been trapped in the 10th layer of the qi refining realm for too long. As soon as they landed, they hastily said a few words to Xiao Hua before entering the tranquil heart cave. They each took out a Peiyuan pill, threw it into their mouths, and closed their eyes to adjust their breathing. Xiao Hua had also taken a Peiyuan pill 2 years ago, so he was very clear about the details. Therefore, he also sat cross-legged on the cliff of Lone Staff Peak. Facing the cold wind, he took out a Peiyuan pill from a jade bottle and looked at the dark green Peiyuan pill against the sunlight. A strong medicinal fragrance assailed his nostrils, and even the cold wind couldn't completely disperse it. Strange, why do I feel that this pill shouldn't have any medicinal fragrance? Xiao Hua was puzzled. If it had a medicinal fragrance, wouldn't the medicinal effects dissipate? Why think so much? It's more important to raise my cultivation. Hurry up and take it, Xiao Hua said self-deprecatingly, then swallowed the Peiyuan pill. As soon as the Peiyuan pill entered his stomach, it immediately turned into a boiling hot current that rushed into Xiao Hua's dantian, then into his meridians. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He silently used Shong Huaming's cultivation method to refine the medicinal effects of the Peiyuan pill one by one. Soon, the sun set, and a bright moon hung in the night sky. While Xiao Hua was refining the medicinal effects, the cube-shaped light source in his mind stopped rotating. Waves of fluctuations appeared, and countless strange starlight shot to Xiao Hua's side. While the light source absorbed the starlight, Xiao Hua's bones, flesh, and meridians also absorbed the strange starlight. Although this starlight couldn't be refined by Shong Huaming's cultivation method, it was mixed with the medicinal effects of the Peiyuan pill and mixed into Xiao Hua's meridian. Late at night, just as Xiao Hua was closing his eyes to cultivate, Xiao Yuhong silently appeared with the flying boat not far from the tranquil heart cave. Xiao Yuhong quietly looked at Xiao Hua for a long time, then used his divine sense to check the situation of the 3 people in the tranquil heart cave. Only then did he start the flying boat and silently glide away. The sun rose from the east, and the first rays of sunlight shone on Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were empty and lifeless, as if there was a flame burning within. When the sunlight flashed in his eyes, they finally regained their color, and gradually showed signs of life. Ari, a Peiyuan pill, as expected, it's not enough. It feels like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Xiao Hua checked his cultivation level and was a little disappointed. However, there was also a trace of anticipation in his heart. The medicinal strength of 1 Peiyuan Dan should be equivalent to the Fa Li that I trained hard for the past year. I wonder how many Peiyuan Dan will be able to raise my cultivation level to the 2nd layer of qi refining. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijian.com to vote for it. -5. Chapter 1264. I still have a lot of Peiyuan pill left from the left and right sect heads. There's no harm in giving it a try, Xiao Hua thought to himself. Without the slightest hesitation, he brushed his hand next to his ear and took out a Peiyuan pill from the space behind his head. He stood up and walked towards the tranquil cave. Seeing that there wasn't any movement inside, he assumed that his senior martial brothers and senior martial sisters had sped up the process of refining the Peiyuan pill. But just as Xiao Hua turned around and sat down in front of the cliff, about to put the 2nd Peiyuan pill into his mouth, he suddenly realized something. I refined the medicinal strength of the Peiyuan pill myself. It only took me half a day and 1 night. Senior martial brothers and senior martial brothers, for some reason, haven't refined it yet. Soon after, he returned to the tranquil cave. When he saw Gong Mingwei and the other 2 with his own eyes, they didn't look surprised or happy at all. It was a clear sign that they were refining the medicinal strength of the pill. Xiao Hua scratched his chin. He already understood. Senior martial brothers are really. I'm afraid they've already taken the 2nd or 3rd Peiyuan pill, right? Because of this, Xiao Hua calmly sat down and started refining the 2nd Peiyuan pill. At noon, Xiao Yuehong's flying boat reappeared. Standing on the boat, Xiao Yuehong's expression was a bit doubtful and he was also frowning. He knew that with the cultivation levels of his 3 disciples, refining a single Peiyuan pill definitely wouldn't take them that long. 3 Peiyuan pills were enough to push their transcendence energy to the peak of the 10th layer of the aura refining realm. If they wanted to reach the 11th layer of the aura refining realm, they'd need another 3 or 6 Peiyuan pills. However, on the one hand, he'd already agreed to leave half of the Peiyuan pill to Xiao Hua. On the other hand, he also wanted his 3 disciples to stop at the peak of the 10th layer of the aura refining realm for a while. That way, they'd be able to safely advance to the next realm. Given Gong Mingwei and the others' cultivation levels and knowledge, they should have understood Xiao Yuehong's intentions. Therefore, after taking 1 Peiyuan pill, they wouldn't immediately take the 2nd one. But now, from the looks of it, they were already refining the 2nd Peiyuan pill. Why are these kids still so impatient? Sometimes, staying in the same realm for a while longer isn't a bad thing. Xiao Yuehong glanced at Xiao Hua. He had already sensed that his cultivation was still at the 1st layer of the aura refining realm, but there was nothing strange about it. He formed an incantation gesture and urged his magic power to return to Minushi Peak. For 3 days in a row, Xiao Hua took a Peiyuan pill every day. The transcendence energy in his body was equivalent to 3 years of cultivation in the past, but his cultivation level was still stuck at the 1st level of the aura refining realm. However, Xiao Hua could already feel that it wasn't that his cultivation level hadn't moved. It really was slowly moving forward under the push of the Peiyuan pill's medicinal power. This discovery had already made Xiao Hua extremely happy. This meant that the method of taking pills was still useful to him. Compared to his previous blind cultivation where he couldn't find a direction, it was much better. Master, master. Just as Xiao Hua was about to take the 4th Peiyuan pill, a loud shout came from the tranquil cave. Wasn't that Zhong Qingxiao's cry of surprise? Without waiting for Xiao Hua to turn around, 3 figures had already flown out of the cave and headed straight for Minushi Peak. What happened? Xiao Hua had just started to ask, but he was immediately overjoyed. Was there even a need to ask? Zhong Qingxiao must have broken through to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. Otherwise, how could she have lost her composure like this? Let's go quickly. This is a rare good thing that happened to Hua Ming in the past 3 years. Xiao Hua also had a smile on his face. He used a flight talisman and flew towards Minushi Peak. Sure enough, just as Xiao Hua arrived at Minushi Peak, he saw Zhong Qingxiao beaming with joy as she gestured and explained to Xiao Yuhong. Xiao Hua beamed as he watched everyone's jubilation and silently landed beside them. After Zhong Qingxiao finished speaking, Xiao Yuhong scolded with a smile, "Look at you, second brother. Why don't you have the bearing of a high-level aura refining cultivator? Foundation establishment is already in sight, yet you're still so frivolous. Master already knew about your cultivation levels when you arrived at Minushi Peak. Moreover, it's not like you haven't advanced before." But, Master. Only now did Zhong Qingxiao come to her senses. She had been talking for a long time, but she didn't seem to have said the key point. But without waiting for her to speak, Xiao Yuhong continued as if he was scolding Xiao Shenrui, "You used 3 Peiyuan pill to advance to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. It's enough to show that you didn't cultivate very hard together. If you put enough effort into it, 1 pill would be enough." These words were naturally different from what he thought in his heart. He didn't expect that 3 Peiyuan pills would be able to raise the cultivation levels of his 3 disciples to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. However, words were just to spur them on, so he really couldn't say it out loud. "Ah, Master," Zhong Qingxiao said very exaggeratedly, "so you know that I cultivate very hard on a daily basis. What do you cultivate hard on?" "Clean," Xiao Yuhong said casually, but before he could finish speaking, he suddenly came to a realization. "What? You only refined 1 Peiyuan pill, and you broke through to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm?" "Yes, Father." Xiao Shenrui also said with a smile on her face, "It's precisely because we only used 1 Peiyuan pill to break through to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm that we were so surprised that we came to report it to Father." How is this possible?" Xiao Yuhong shook his head like a rattledrum. "Master goes to see you every noon. How did it take you 3 days to refine 1 Peiyuan pill?" "Master, I don't know either. I only feel that there's something very special in this Peiyuan pill that's very useful for raising the cultivation level. However, this thing is extremely difficult to refine. I also spent 3 days of hard work to refine it. But the result of refining this thing is that the 3 of us stepped into the 11th layer of the aura refining realm at the same time," Gong Mingwei said with a smile. "Give me 1 of your Peiyuan pills." Xiao Yuehong's face was full of surprise. He took the Peiyuan pill from Xiao Shenrui and released his divine sense. Unfortunately, after looking at it for a long time, he still couldn't see what was so special about this Peiyuan pill. "Father, why don't you take 1 too? Won't you know what it is then?" Xiao Shenrui suggested. Xiao Yuehong's expression changed, but then he shook his head and handed the Peiyuan pill to Xiao Shenrui. "If 1 Peiyuan pill can send you to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm, then these 2 Peiyuan pills should be able to bring you to the peak of the 11th layer. How can Master take them from you?" "Oh right, Xiao Hua, your senior brother and sister have made such great progress. Have you already reached the 3rd layer of the aura refining realm?" As soon as these words came out, everyone turned around and looked at Xiao Hua, who was standing behind them. At this time, Xiao Hua's face and ears were already red. In a flurry, he took out the 2 jade bottles that he had taken out in advance from his bosom and said pitifully, "Sect leader, you use disciples Peiyuan Dan, try it." Seeing Xiao Hua like this, Xiao Yuhong was a bit puzzled. He asked, "Xiao Hua, you took a Peiyuan pill, but you only reached the 2nd layer of the aura refining realm? This?" Xiao Hua's face turned purple, and the hand he used to hand over the Peiyuan pill slightly retracted. Looking at the 4 people's concerned eyes, he said with a sobbing voice, Disciple is still in the 1st layer of the aura refining realm." "Oh, it's okay." Xiao Yuhong comforted Xiao Hua. "Your progress has always been slow, so it's just as Master expected. Just take a few more pills. Master doesn't want these 2 anymore." "But Disciple has already taken 3 Peiyuan pills." Xiao Hua took a deep breath and finally said it. "Of course, The 3 seniors only used 1 Peiyuan pill to go from the 10th layer of the aura refining realm to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. While he took 3 in succession, he was still in the 1st layer of the aura refining realm. This really can't be explained. Even Xiao Hua himself felt that taking the Peiyuan pill was a waste. Xiao Yuhong was speechless, Gong Mingwei was speechless, Zhong Qingxiao was speechless, Xiao Shenrui was speechless. After a long time, Zhong Qingxiao patted Xiao Hua's shoulder and said with a serious expression, "Little junior brother, you are really amazing. Second senior brother is convinced by you." Second brother, Xiao Yuhong scolded, "Xiao Hua, this is called a natural talent." Afterwards, he comforted Xiao Hua, "It doesn't matter, Xiao Hua. You were the one who found the spiritual plants for these spiritualizing pills. Since you've taken 3 pills, it's useless, so take 9 more. Master wants to see how many spiritualizing pills you'll need to take in order to reach the 2nd layer of the Qi refining realm." "Oh, that's right. You've taken 3 energy cultivation pills. Has your cultivation improved? Is there anything strange in this Peiyuan pill that your eldest senior brother and the others talked about?" Reporting to Sect Master, Disciple's cultivation has made progress. 1 Peiyuan pill is equivalent to a year of bitter cultivation. It's just that Disciple didn't notice the strange thing that the senior brothers talked about. Xiao Hua said honestly. If you didn't, then you didn't. Master will start refining pills and continue to refine 24 Peiyuan pills. It will let your cultivation progress again, Xiao Yuhong said heroically. He seemed to have seen Shong Huaming's beautiful future just like Xiao Hua 2 days ago. "Yes, Master. Disciples will go prepare now," Gong Mingwei said with a grin. "There's no need. Don't you all still have Peiyuan pills on you? Go refine them." Xiao Yuhong waved his hand and said, "Even Xiao Hua doesn't need to come. You and your senior brothers are the same. Go cultivate. The things in the pill room haven't been tidied up yet. Master will refine the pills himself." "Yes, Master." Tilda Gong Mingwei and the other 2 bowed. Their hearts were burning with passion. After all, they hadn't made any progress in their cultivation for many years. They weren't willing to let go of such a good opportunity. "Sect Master, you really don't want it?" Xiao Hua didn't take back the Peiyuan pill and asked. "There's no need. You take it. Master will be able to refine some more soon," Xiao Yuhong said with a smile. "You all go quickly. Wait for Master to refine the pills. I hope you can make further progress." After saying that, he waved his hand and a flying boat appeared in front of them. Xiao Yuhong stepped in and flew directly to the pill room on Shihua Peak. "Let's go, Xiao Hua." Zhong Qingxiao pulled on Xiao Hua's sleeve and said in a low voice, "If you don't take it, then these 2 pills, what are you talking about?" Gong Mingwei scolded, "This is Xiao Hua's Peiyuan pill. Master doesn't want it. What are you planning?" Zhong Qingxiao said with a sullen face, "Little junior brother won't have any effect after taking it. It's better to let me take advantage of it." -5. Chapter 1265. How do you know it's ineffective for Xiao Hua? Didn't he say it just now? He's improved, but it's less than us. Maybe it's because his body is different from ours, Xiao Shenrui said. What's the difference? Aren't we all made of flesh and blood? Zhong Qingxiao said disdainfully. However, he didn't dare to go against Gong Mingwei's wishes, so he could only give up on the idea of asking for the Peiyuan pill. "Actually, it's fine. Senior martial brother, I have a lot of Peiyuan pill here. After you refine the 2 Peiyuan pills in a few days, if you don't have enough, just ask me. I'm right in front of the tranquil cave," Xiao Hua said sincerely. He really wanted to see the smiles on his senior martial brother and sister's faces. "Okay, it's a deal," Xiao Shenrui smiled. "After I finish my 2 Peiyuan pills, I'll ask you for more." Gong Mingwei also nodded. He knew very well that refining 2 Peiyuan pills would take 6 to 7 days. This was also the time when his master would refine the Peiyuan pill. When that time came, there would be a new Peiyuan pill. The Peiyuan pill in Xiao Hua's hands, they wouldn't be able to use it. Xiao Hua nodded happily and followed them back to Lone Staff Peak. In the following 6 days, Xiao Hua didn't see the 3 of them come out of the Tranquil Cave. Every day, before he took the Peiyuan pill, he would go to the Tranquil Cave to take a look. However, Gong Mingwei and the others were still cultivating, so he didn't dare disturb them. As for Xiao Hua himself, his magic power was increasing day by day, and his cultivation level was also slowly increasing. However, after taking 6 Peiyuan pills in succession, he still hadn't broken through to the second layer of qi refining. It was already the 7th day, the day Xiao Yuhong collected the second batch of Peiyuan pill. Seeing that Gong Mingwei and the others were still cultivating, Xiao Hua flew into the pill room. At this time, Xiao Yuhong was sitting cross-legged in front of the pill furnace. Sensing Xiao Hua's arrival, he asked warmly, "Where are your senior martial brothers? Haven't they come out of seclusion yet?" "Sect Master, senior martial brothers, they're still cultivating. I don't know when they'll come out." What about you?" Xiao Yuehong's voice became even gentler. Disciple is still at the first level of aura refining." Xiao Hua was somewhat dispirited. "It doesn't matter. Counting with my fingers, you've already taken 9 Peiyuan pills. In any case, the Peiyuan pill won't be ready today. It should be ready at this time tomorrow. Go back and take another one. Come with your senior brothers tomorrow." Thinking about how he only had 3 of the 12 Peiyuan pill left, Xiao Hua couldn't help but sigh. "Disciple, it's better for me to stay in the pill room and serve the sect master." Xiao Yuhong shook his head. "It doesn't matter who attends in the pill room. If you don't want to change the title of sect leader to master, then stay here." Then, he closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing, no longer paying attention to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua stood there blankly for a long time. He knew Xiao Yuehong's painstaking efforts, so he clenched his teeth, turned around and flew back to Lone Staff Peak. As before, he sat cross-legged. Without any hesitation, he threw the Peiyuan pill into his mouth. Then, he activated his heart technique and strove to refine the Peiyuan pill's medicinal power. After an unknown amount of time, the true qi in his meridians suddenly sped up. It was no longer the same as before. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He had a premonition. Just as he was about to urge his true qi to break through, he heard a familiar voice in his ear. "How many more Peiyuan pills are there?" "Take them all." Xiao Hua slightly opened his eyes. In front of him was Zhong Qingxiao's concerned expression. He was just about to speak when he heard Zhong Qingxiao berate him. "What are you still hesitating for? Hurry, this is the time for you to break through." Xiao Hua's heart trembled. He didn't dare to be negligent. He reached into his bosom and took out the last 2 Peiyuan pills. As soon as the Peiyuan pill entered his mouth, it immediately turned into a strand of liquid. In an instant, that liquid transformed into a scalding warm current that rushed into his meridians. It was precisely the spiritual energy of heaven and earth contained within the 2 Peiyuan pills. The medicinal power of the Peiyuan pill rushed into Xiao Hua's meridians, adding fuel to the fire in his already accelerated true qi. The medicinal power combined with his true qi directly rushed towards the barrier of the first layer of the aura refining realm. It was like a huge wave crashing against the shore. After a few repetitions, just as the medicinal power was about to be exhausted, a light kai sound rang out. It was as if in Xiao Hua's mind, the true qi in his meridians was like tearing through a layer of paper, breaking through the barrier of the first layer of the aura refining realm. All of the true qi was like mercury, cheerfully flowing into his new meridians. "Second layer of the aura refining realm," Xiao Hua muttered. He couldn't help but feel extremely bitter in his heart. "These are 12 Peiyuan pills. It's equivalent to 12 years of my bitter cultivation. Others can break through to the first layer of the aura refining realm in a year and a half, but I actually had to cultivate for 12 years to reach it. Congratulations, little junior brother. Congratulations, little junior brother." Seeing Xiao Hua break through to the first layer of the aura refining realm, Zhong Qingxiao acted as if she had also broken through to the next layer. Her smile was as brilliant as a flower. After the true qi slowly flowed through his new meridians and gradually adapted to it, Xiao Hua stood up and said with a bitter smile, "Second senior brother, don't make fun of little brother. What's there to congratulate? Ha ha ha, of course there is. I thought you'd be stuck at the first layer of the aura refining realm for your entire life. I didn't expect you to break through to the second layer of the aura refining realm in my lifetime. You've really given me a feast for the eyes. Of course I have to congratulate you. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Let's go. Eldest senior brother and junior sister have already gone to the pill room. Master is probably also waiting for you. Zhong Qingxiao used her arts and flew up. Xiao Hua followed behind her. Right, second senior brother, have you reached the peak of the aura refining realm? Xiao Hua asked with concern. How could it be that simple? Zhong Qingxiao shook her head and said, we've just broken through to the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. How could 2 mere Peiyuan pills help us improve so much? We've only reached the early stage of the 11th layer of the aura refining realm. Haha, congratulations second senior brother. I heard that in the late stage of the aura refining realm, every step forward is extremely difficult. Second senior brother was able to break through to the early stage of the 11th layer in only 7 days. It's really gratifying. Although Zhong Qingxiao said it wasn't a big deal, there was still a smile on her face. I'm still just SOSO. Eldest senior brother has reached the middle stage of the 11th layer. If Master can refine another 24 Peiyuan pills, maybe eldest senior brother really will break through to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. As the two of them spoke, they arrived at the pill refining room. Inside, Xiao Yuhong was sitting cross-legged while Gong Mingwei and Xiao Shenrui stood beside him. Master, Xiao Hua broke through. Before they even entered the pill refining room, Zhong Qingxiao shouted loudly. Ha, congratulations little junior brother, congratulations little junior brother. Gong Mingwei and Xiao Shenrui said with the same tone as Zhong Qingxiao. During this time, Xiao Hua had already understood that although his path of cultivation was much more difficult than others, he now saw hope. As long as he had a direction, he only needed to follow this direction step by step. In the past, he couldn't even see the shadow of his senior brother and senior sister on the path of cultivation. Now, as long as he cultivated steadily, he would be able to see their backs sooner or later. Therefore, Xiao Hua no longer felt depressed. He smiled and cupped his hands in return, saying, congratulations to you too. Temph, it's only the second layer of the aura refining realm. What's there to be proud of? Xiao Yuhong said unhappily, how many Peiyuan pills did you take? Sect Master, Disciple. Disciple took all 12 Peiyuan pills. Xiao Hua muttered. Isn't that right? You took all the Peiyuan pills and only reached the second layer of the aura refining realm. What's there to be proud of? If it was someone else, not to mention someone else, even your 2 senior brothers, if they took the 12 Peiyuan pills that year, their cultivation would have already reached the foundation establishment realm. Father. Xiao Yuehong's words were too ruthless. Xiao Shenrui couldn't help but stop him. Xiao Hua finally made progress. Everyone should be happy, right? Don't always pour cold water on them. Disciple understands, Sect Master. Disciple is definitely not proud. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Disciple just felt that he saw the dawn of cultivation and was somewhat happy in his heart. That's good. Xiao Yuhong threw away the seriousness on his face and said with a smile, it's good that you know your shortcomings. The heavenly Tao rewards the diligent. As long as you work hard, the heavenly Tao above us is watching. The heavenly Tao. Xiao Hua was shocked. It seemed that the heavenly Tao was very familiar to him. What's wrong now? Xiao Yuhong asked curiously. He didn't know what he said wrong. Nothing. Sect Master, how is the Peiyuan pill that you refined? Xiao Hua came back to his senses and asked. Ari, it's not as good as the last time. Xiao Yuehong's face was somewhat regretful. He pointed to some jade bottles on the ground and said, this time, I only refined 18 Peiyuan pills. It's 1 grade lower than the 24 pills last time. Only 17 Peiyuan pills? Xiao Hua looked at them and couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Moreover, before you all came out of seclusion, I already took one. It seems, there wasn't the strange thing that you all were talking about. Xiao Yuhong continued. In the past few days, when you were refining the Peiyuan pill, did you encounter it again? Yes. Master, in the past few days, the Peiyuan pill was also difficult to refine. Disciple spent a lot of effort to refine those things. Zhong Qingxiao said. Hey, that's strange. How come you all could sense it, but I couldn't? Xiao Yuhong frowned slightly. He waved his hand, and a Peiyuan pill stopped in front of each of Xiao Hua and the others. Each of you will take one Peiyuan pill and refine it again. See if there's any difference from the last time. Yes, Master, Gong Mingwei and the other two said in unison. No, Sect Master. This was Xiao Hua's voice. Why? Xiao Yuhong asked curiously. Disciple used 12 Peiyuan pills to advance from the first layer to the second layer of qi refining. Wouldn't it take 24, or even 36 Peiyuan pills to advance from the second layer of qi refining to the third layer of qi refining? Sect Master, you should keep this pill. It would be a waste for Disciple to use it. No matter, many a little makes a mickle. Moreover, this time you're helping me test the medicinal properties of the pills. All 4 of you have a share. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand and smiled. The 4 of them took the pills and flew back to Lone Staff Peak. In less than half a day, the 4 of them returned to the pill room. What's wrong? There really isn't any of the strange things contained in the pills from last time? Seeing the 4 of them return at the same time, Xiao Yuhong couldn't be bothered to ask Xiao Hua why he refined the pills so quickly. Yes, Master. The Peiyuan pill disciple refined this time is the same as the Peiyuan pill disciple refined several years ago, Gong Mingwei said respectfully. The effects are far inferior to the one disciple took a few days ago. -5. Chapter 1266. But, the technique master used these 2 times, the vitality assimilating fruit and black tusk grass were the same. Xiao Yuhong was bewildered. He had already thought about this question for a long time half a day ago, but he couldn't find any clues. Now that he asked again, he didn't expect any answers. Gong Mingwei and the other 2 weren't proficient in pill concocting, so they naturally couldn't answer this question. They could only stare at each other, not saying a word. Xiao Hua was even more straightforward. He didn't sense the strange thing they were talking about, so he had no right to speak. Forget it. You can divide the remaining Peiyuan pill among yourselves. Master will think about it, and then I'll refine the remaining spiritual herbs into a Peiyuan pill. Then we'll see how effective it is. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand, and 3 Peiyuan pills flew in front of each of them. Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took them. After Gong Mingwei and the other 2 saluted and returned to Lone Staff Peak, Xiao Hua asked, Sect Master, Disciple doesn't want to take the Peiyuan pill now. I want to wait until my realm stabilizes. Oh, okay. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand without turning his head. Just as he put down his hand, he suddenly realized something and slapped his forehead. Master forgot that you only have the first layer of my Death Flower art. Now that you're already in the second layer of the aura refining realm, you should practice the second layer of the art. After he finished speaking, he slapped his hand and took out 2 yellow talismans from his storage bag. He handed them over and said, Go to the Ancestral Hall and take the art. These 2 yellow talismans are used in the Ancestral Hall. Thank you, Sect Master. Xiao Hua bowed and received the 2 yellow talismans. Then, after a bit of hesitation, he reported, Sect Master, this Ancestral Hall, where is it located? Disciple doesn't know. Xiao Yuhong slapped his forehead again and shook his head slightly. It's a bit messy. I've wronged my 100 years of aura refining cultivation. Then, he said, go find your eldest martial brother and let him take you there. Just as Xiao Yuhong finished talking about his calm demeanor in the face of danger, he turned around and looked towards the pill furnace, throwing Xiao Hua to the side. After Xiao Hua saluted, he immediately flew back to the Lone Staff Peak. Hearing that their master was going to pass on the second layer of the aura refining realm's cultivation method, Gong Mingwei and the other 2 were all very happy. Zhong Qingxiao even volunteered to take Xiao Hua to get the cultivation method. Gong Mingwei smiled and shook his head. The ancestral hall of my Shong Huaming is different from other people's ancestral halls. Since Master has arranged for me to go, I naturally can't go. You'd better face the wall and meditate. Zhong Qingxiao curled her lips and walked to her seat. She sat down cross-legged and adjusted the true qi in her body. Let's go. Xiaohua tilde Gong Mingwei flew up first, and Xiaohua followed. After flying for a while, Xiaohua felt bewildered. Gong Mingwei had landed on the back mountain of Mingli Peak, where the secret room was located. Turning his head to look at the strange Xiaohua, Gong Mingwei pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Instead, he used his magic power to activate one of the yellow talismans and stuck it on the stone wall. The secret room's passage appeared. After entering the secret room, the two of them went to the corner where the puppet was previously. Gong Mingwei looked at the messy things in the corner and sighed. This ancestral hall hasn't been opened for a long time. Xiaohua, you have to put in a bit more effort. Xiaohua looked at the four walls in the corner and didn't see anything strange. He could only smile apologetically and say, "Little brother knows. Little brother will definitely work hard." Millimeter tilde Gong Mingwei nodded and pointed at a place. This is the entrance to the ancestral hall. Clean it up a bit. Yes, eldest martial brother. Xiaohua agreed and cleaned up the place Gong Mingwei was pointing at, creating an empty space with a radius of 1 meter. Gong Mingwei walked to the empty space and activated another yellow talisman in his hand. That yellow talisman emitted a faint bronze brilliance. After a while, when the brilliance covered the brilliance of the Minghua stone, Gong Mingwei pointed his hand at the ground. The brilliance of the yellow talisman fell on the ground, and with a light Z sound, the ground rippled like water and gradually opened up, revealing a 3 feet square cyan stone slab. So it's underground. No wonder I couldn't see anything on the stone wall. Xiaohua woke up and saw Gong Mingwei walk to the cyan stone slab. He waved his hand and said, "Xiaohua, you come here too." The 3 feet square was enough for 2 people to stand on. When Xiaohua stood on the cyan stone slab, Gong Mingwei waved his hand again, and another yellow talisman in his hand shot a bright yellow brilliance onto the cyan stone slab. The cyan stone slab immediately rose with the same brilliance and enveloped the 2 people. Xiaohua only felt a flash in front of his eyes. When he blinked and looked again, he had already arrived in a rather large palace. This palace was comparable to the guest hall of Mingli Peak, and its grandeur and style of the palace was also much more simple and unadorned. On the thick stone pillars of the palace, there were also large Minghua stones inlaid, illuminating the entire palace. Looking at Xiaohua's dumbstruck expression, Gong Mingwei coughed and said with a smile, "Xiaohua, do you feel that this ancestral hall is different from what you imagined?" Xiaohua came back to his senses and said embarrassedly, "Yes, eldest martial brother. Because I heard the sect master say it was an ancestral hall, I thought it was just a small room. Even when you were in the secret room just now, I thought it was a place like a secret room. But..." Xiaohua looked around and shook his head slightly. "But I didn't expect that this ancestral hall is actually a palace, comparable to a guest hall." "Ha ha ha tilde that's right, Master has always called this place the ancestral hall. Actually, I heard Master say that this place is called the inheritance hall. It is a place to worship the gods and pass down my Shong Huaming's cultivation method." Gong Mingwei laughed a few times, then immediately covered his mouth and said in a low voice, "The inheritance hall is my Shong Huaming's most solemn place. You can't make a racket. That day, when I came here for the first time, compared to you, hehe, I was even more shocked. At that time, I was still young, and only after the time it took to brew a cup of tea did I come back to my senses." Finished speaking, he waved his hand and said, "Come, follow me to worship the god statue. Then, we will learn the heart technique. Yes, I will listen to eldest martial brother's instructions." Hearing this, Xiaohua was unusually respectful. Although he was very surprised in his heart, because he had never worshipped any god statue before. As Gong Mingwei walked into the depths of the hall, they were greeted by a huge platform. Xiaohua's gaze was immediately attracted by the emerald green god statue on the platform. This figure was not very tall or big. On the contrary, it was only about the height of a person. However, The god statue was floating in the air and could be seen very clearly. Hey! This god statue, what is it? A human? Or a fish? Looking at the god statue in the air, Xiao Hua couldn't help but wonder. That god statue was extremely emerald green. Under the brilliance of the bright flower stones, it reflected a bright light. Under the light, there was a strange appearance. This god statue's upper body was in the shape of a woman. She had a thin waist and large breasts. Her 2 hands were placed in front of her chest, and her 10 fingers were in the shape of a seal. As for the lower body, from the waist down, it was not the legs of an ordinary person. Instead, it was in the shape of a fish tail. The fish tail's fine scales were faintly shining, and it looked a little dizzy. Oh, no, this is not a fish tail. When Xiao Hua walked closer, he saw that the god statue's tail was actually long and curled up. It was actually similar to Little White's tail. It's a snake tail. Why does that god statue have a snake tail? Xiao Hua was certain in his heart. Suddenly, perhaps it was an illusion, or perhaps Xiao Hua walked to a special place. His eyes were dazzled, and his entire gaze was attracted by the seal in the god statue's hand. Buzz. There seemed to be a sound in his mind. Xiao Hua's eyes darkened, and an incomparably huge wasteland appeared in front of him. On this incomparably barren plain, there were countless strange beasts. Xiao Hua had never seen any of them before, and these beasts were also incomparably huge. Each of them was 1,000 times bigger than Xiao Hua. In front of these beasts, Xiao Hua was like an ant. Ah! Here, there are actually 10 suns here. When Xiao Hua raised his eyes and saw the 10 big round fireballs in the distant sky, Xiao Hua suddenly cried out in alarm. At this moment, a voice descended from the sky. Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's eyes darkened, and when he looked again, it was actually Gong Mingwei's concerned eyes. His ears were also filled with Gong Mingwei's concerned shout. This. Xiao Hua's eyes turned sharply, and he looked left and right. He was in Shang Huaming's inheritance palace. In an instant, cold sweat appeared on his back. What's wrong with you? Xiao Hua. Gong Mingwei didn't understand and continued to ask. No, nothing. Xiao Hua raised his head somewhat fearfully and saw the god statue's round eyes. It was a god statue, but its eyes revealed a kind of benevolence, a kind of pity, as if it was looking at a real person. Eldest senior brother. Xiao Hua looked at the god statue and whispered, "This god, who is it? How come it's wearing so little? It doesn't even have a daoist robe." That's right, the upper body of the god statue only had some extremely exquisite ornaments covering its chest. Most of its body was bare. This wasn't the attire of the female cultivators of Xiaoyu continent. Huh? Gong Mingwei looked at Xiao Hua in surprise and said curiously, "You're really strange, Xiao Hua. When I first came here, the first question I asked Master was why this god statue doesn't have legs. I've also asked second brother and little Rui the same question. You, on the other hand, didn't ask about your legs, but your clothes." Then he said thoughtfully, "Oh, I kind of understand. At that time, we were still young." Hehe, you. Xiao Hua found it funny. He really didn't know that this usually solemn eldest senior brother would actually joke in the inheritance palace, so he coughed and said, "Eldest senior brother, this is the inheritance palace." Gong Mingwei's face turned cold. He turned and saluted, muttering, "Ancestor above, this disciple has blasphemed. I deserve to die, I deserve to die." Then his tone softened. "But now, we only have 3.5 disciples. Senior, please show mercy and don't punish this disciple." Then he turned and winked at Xiao Hua, saying again, "This is our Shang Huaming's half-disciple. He came today to receive my Shang Huaming's second-layer qi refining cultivation technique. Ian, he still doesn't have the qualifications to kowtow to you, so he'll bow and salute." Xiao Hua originally wanted to kowtow, but after hearing Gong Mingwei's words, he could only stop and bow in greeting. He also muttered, "That sect master's ancestral master, disciple. Xiao Hua greets you, senior." -5. Chapter 1267. The statue naturally couldn't speak. Xiao Hua stood up after saluting. His eyes dodged the statue's chest, dodged the statue's seemingly bright and spirited eyes, and when he wanted to dodge the spell used by the outstretched hands, Xiao Hua's expression unconsciously became sluggish. The spell was somewhat familiar, but when he thought about it again, he didn't have any clue. This spell. Xiao Hua, you actually noticed the spell? Gong Mingwei was very surprised. He looked at Xiao Hua's gaze and said, this spell doesn't seem to be a spell of our Xiaoyu continent. I only noticed this when I was at the 9th layer of qi refining. You actually noticed the abnormality of the statue's hands as soon as you saw it. Xiao Hua shook his head slightly. Eldest senior brother is overpraising me. How could this little brother know any spell? I just feel very strange. This ancestral statue seems to be real, and the spell used by the hands. I thought it was our Shong Huaming's secret inheritance. Ancestral master. Alas, actually, I don't know if it's our Shong Huaming's ancestral master or not. Gong Mingwei said something that made Xiao Hua very surprised. According to master, this statue has always been here when I, Shong Huaming, established the sect. If it's our Shong Huaming's ancestral master, why isn't it in human form? This strange appearance, I'm afraid it's some kind of ancient demonic beast. Master searched through the ancient records in the sect for a long time, but he didn't find any clues. According to master, before Grandmaster went out to travel and didn't come back, he had already told him that he wasn't sure if this statue was the founder of the sect. Then Gong Mingwei helplessly looked at Xiao Hua and finally said, however, the ancestral master didn't leave behind an image. This statue can be considered the ancestral master who founded the sect. There's such a saying. Xiao Hua was really speechless. Ancestral master, could he still casually recognize it? Alright, let's not talk so much. Greet the ancestral master. On the table next to him is my Shong Huaming's cultivation method. Follow me. Gong Mingwei brought Xiao Hua to the side. Sure enough, there were more than a dozen books and several jade slips on the jade table. Gong Mingwei pointed at them and proudly said, the first dozen books are the cultivation methods for me, Shong Huaming, from the 1st layer to the 12th layer of the qi refining realm. These jade slips are the cultivation methods for the foundation establishment realm and beyond. After all, starting from the peak of the 12th layer of the qi refining realm, cultivators can use their divine sense to check jade slip. Hearing this, Xiao Hua nodded slightly. He saw a dozen books and several jade slips. They looked very ordinary, but the handwriting on the books couldn't be clearly seen. Xiao Hua understood that there must be a restriction placed on these things. If he didn't have a way to break it, he absolutely couldn't see them. Sure enough, Gong Mingwei looked at it and waved the yellow talisman in his hand, sticking it onto the second booklet. A dark red light flashed, and the words on the cover of the booklet were revealed, Shong Huaming, 2nd level of qi refinement. Gong Mingwei took down the yellow talisman and handed the booklet to Xiao Hua. He said, Master didn't come, so I didn't dare to act on my own. Xiao Hua, you memorized the 2nd level cultivation method here. It's better if you don't take this booklet out of the inheritance palace. Yes, eldest senior martial brother. Xiao Hua wasn't surprised. Ever since he took a trip outside and listened to Cai Zhuoxia's introduction, he already knew that Xiaoyu continent was extremely lacking in cultivation methods. It was already extremely rare for Shong Huaming to cultivate to the core formation realm, so he definitely attached great importance to it. He remembered that the book for the 1st layer of the aura refining realm was also given to him by Xiao Yuhong. Xiao Yuhong had stayed by his side, waiting for him to memorize it before taking it away. Xiao Hua walked to a corner of the main hall and sat down cross-legged. He held his breath and condensed his qi for a while, then flipped open the book for the 2nd level of qi refining. His current cultivation level had already entered the 2nd level of qi refining, but he didn't have a corresponding cultivation method. His true qi was freely dispersed in his new meridians, so he couldn't continue to temper it. Just as Xiao Hua expected, this 2nd level cultivation method was the same as when he cultivated the 1st level of qi refining. He only read it 3 times, and his true qi followed the instructions of the cultivation method, slowly tempering it through a cycle. The tempering speed wasn't slow, the growth of his true qi wasn't slow, and the increase of his magic power wasn't slow either. But Xiao Hua knew that his cultivation level was the same as when he was at the first level of qi refining. There was practically no change. Xiao Hua almost wanted to cry. At this moment, he seemed to have understood that his aptitude wasn't bad. This Shang Huaming's cultivation method wasn't bad either. It wasn't that he didn't work hard. The crux of the matter was that he had to put in roughly 10 times the hard work of others in order to reach their cultivation level. From the first level of qi refining to the second level of qi refining, he used 12 peiyuan pills. In other words, he had bitterly cultivated his magic power for 12 years in order to achieve a breakthrough. From the second level of qi refining to the third level of qi refining, perhaps, he would need at least another 12 peiyuan pills. Thinking up to here, Xiao Hua unconsciously shrugged his shoulders. Not far away, Gong Mingwei, who had been paying attention all along, saw this and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Xiao Hua, you have already memorized it." Xiao Hua stood up and handed the booklet in his hand to Gong Mingwei. He smiled and said, "Thank you, eldest senior brother. Little brother has already memorized it." "You?" Gong Mingwei didn't take the booklet. He asked in return, "Have you used the second level of qi refining to temper your true qi? If you haven't, then read it a few more times." Reporting to eldest senior brother. Little brother has already circulated his qi for 1 cycle. There are no abnormalities. I have indeed mastered the second level of qi refining. "Ari, all right." Gong Mingwei took the booklet and said with a complicated expression, "That year, when I tried to comprehend the second level of qi refining, I spent 3 days of effort. You actually managed to comprehend it after reading it for a short while. If you aren't a peerless genius, then you must have cultivated it before." "All right, eldest senior brother knows. Little brother also doesn't know why. Moreover, although my magic power has increased, my realm hasn't followed suit. I don't feel the slightest bit of progress. Forget it. Let's wait for Master to refine another peiyuan pill. Right now, these peiyuan pills don't seem to be effective enough. It's too far from the last one." Gong Mingwei placed the booklet on the table. In just a few breaths of time, the booklet had already become blurry and couldn't be read clearly. Presumably, the restriction had already taken effect. Then, Gong Mingwei's left hand pulled Xiao Hua's sleeve, and the yellow talisman in his right hand shot out. A ray of light flashed, and the 2 figures disappeared from the main hall, leaving only the strange god statue floating in the air. When Xiao Hua opened his eyes again, he was already in the secret chamber. The yellow talisman in Gong Mingwei's hand flashed and burned. In a moment, it turned into ashes. This yellow talisman for entering and leaving the ancestral hall was personally made by Master. It can only be used one at a time. Every yellow talisman will burn when it comes out of the ancestral hall. Gong Mingwei explained, "This is also my Shang Huaming's secret. Other than Master, I'm afraid, only junior sister knows some clues." Xiao Hua was stunned and asked curiously, "Eldest senior brother is my Shang Huaming's eldest disciple. These secrets, shouldn't they be in eldest senior brother's hands?" Gong Mingwei's face was a little strange, and he shook his head slightly. "Before I became Shang Huaming's disciple, Ari, these are all things of the past. In short, Master had no other choice. Perhaps after I reach foundation establishment, Master will have some arrangement." Xiao Hua was still not Shang Huaming's official disciple. Of course, he wouldn't say that this matter was unfair in front of eldest senior brother. Perhaps Xiao Yuhong thought that his daughter would definitely stay in Shang Huaming before, so he did this, but looking at the current situation, it was a little strain. After leaving the secret chamber, Gong Mingwei brought Xiao Hua to the pill room and returned the yellow talisman to Xiao Yuhong. Xiao Yuhong saw that it was Gong Mingwei who returned it, and he didn't ask much. He only glanced at Xiao Hua and asked, "Have you memorized the second level's mental cultivation method?" Without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Gong Mingwei said with a smile, "Don't worry, Master. Junior brother has already circulated 1 cycle. He's really a genius." This answer was both unexpected and within Xiao Yuehong's expectations. Xiao Yuehong's eyes flashed with joy. He nodded slightly and said, Xiao Hua is in the 100 Herbs Gate. Of course, she won't be covered in dust. Xiao Hua sweated and quickly said, reporting to Sect Master, this disciple feels that cherishing Flower Peak is very good. Don't mention Yarrow Nong Peak. Hee, good, good. Xiao Yuhong smiled and turned to Gong Mingwei. That's right, Mingwei. Master just thought about it again. If we directly refine the Peiyuan pill, in case it's the same as the batch we just refined, we won't have any more absorption fruit. Therefore, Master wants to refine a batch of Wu Kang pills first. If the absorption fruits and black tusk grass have that kind of strange thing, the second batch of Peiyuan pill should be the same as the first batch. Therefore, there should be a problem with Master's refining method. If the refining method is the key, then the Wu Kang pill should contain that kind of strange thing. Yes, Master's words are extremely true. Gong Mingwei didn't understand alchemy, but listening to Xiao Yuehong's words, it was very reasonable. He could only nod and say, then, what can this disciple do for Master? No need, no need. Didn't I just say it? You all should cultivate. This time, Master will do it personally. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand and said. Seeing that they weren't needed in the pill room, Gong Mingwei and Xiao Hua both returned to Lone Staff Peak. In the first 2 days, Xiao Hua was still cultivating the second layer of the mental cultivation method under Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao's guidance. But after 2 days, the previous situation occurred again. Xiao Hua no longer had anything to ask in terms of cultivation. His magic power also increased day by day. Although the increase was slow, it was still increasing. As for his cultivation base, it still didn't advance. Seeing that they couldn't give pointers to Xiao Hua, Gong Mingwei and the others also cultivated on their own. Xiao Hua saw that he was bored and still returned to Shihua Peak. Before leaving, Zhong Qingxiao persuaded Xiao Hua in every way possible to give 2 Peiyuan pills. Xiao Hua couldn't refuse and could only accept them. There was a lot of work in Shihua Peak's medicinal field, but Xiao Hua had the strength and his movements were also fast. After finishing, he also spent a lot of time cultivating. The 2 Peiyuan pills were refined by the 2 people. Each pill increased their magic power by 2 years. The effect wasn't much different from the first batch of Peiyuan pills. This is strange. The 2 Peiyuan pills refined by Sect Master were extremely different in eldest senior brother's case. Why are they the same in my case? And, other people take, cough cough, they don't need the Peiyuan pill to cultivate to the second layer of qi refining. Why do I have to take, or cultivate for 12 years? It's really strange. -5. Chapter 1268. Another 7 days passed, and Xiao Yuhong finished refining the third batch of pills. This time, he was refining the parasol pill. When he received the message, Xiao Hua was inspecting the spiritual herbs in his space. Many of them were several decades old. Only the linglong grass still hadn't budded. However, Xiao Hua wasn't in a hurry. There was still some time before the 100-day period. The linglong grass in the space also had several decades of spiritual energy to absorb. Everything would only be known after the 100-day period. And what Xiao Hua was worried about now was how to explain the origin of these exquisite grass to the sect leader. It seemed that from Zhong Qingxiao's words, she already had some suspicions about him obtaining the black bamboo grass from the cave, so much so that she even had suspicions about his own origin. There was also that conversation in the pill room. Xiao Hua didn't believe that Zhong Qingxiao was the only one who noticed his actions in the pill room. Sect head Xiao Yuhong was a foundation establishment stage cultivator. His divine sense was definitely not something ordinary people could detect. It was impossible for him not to know that he was subconsciously simulating the pill refining technique. Seeing Xiao Yuehong's message, Xiao Hua immediately took the puppet out of the space, threw it into the medicinal field, and used a flight talisman to arrive at the pill room on Shihua Peak. Since Xiao Hua entered the second layer of the qi refining realm, he was even more proficient in using the flight talisman. Xiao Hua faintly felt that even an 11th layer qi refining expert like Gong Mingwei might not be able to catch up to him. When Xiao Hua arrived at the pill room, Zhong Qingxiao and the other 2 didn't come. Sect head Xiao Hua cupped his hands in greeting. Oh! Xiao Hua, you came first. Xiao Yuhong was obviously surprised. He first sent the summoning talisman to Gong Mingwei before thinking of Xiao Hua. Yes, disciple received sect head's message and immediately came. You're at Shi Hua Peak. After saying this, Xiao Yuhong slapped his forehead. Of course, if you're not at Shi Hua Peak, where else could you be? After a long while, Gong Mingwei and the others arrived at the pill room. Xiao Yuhong didn't have time to ask anything else. He grabbed Gong Mingwei and said, Mingwei, Master just refined a batch of parasol pills. You and second brother come and see the effect. Gong Mingwei said with a smile, No problem, Master. Second brother has been taking Wu Kang pills since he was young. Within the sect, only he is very familiar with the medicinal properties of this Wu Kang pill. As long as he takes it, he will immediately know the difference. Zhong Qingxiao was exasperated and said anxiously, Eldest senior brother, don't forget that you were also beaten up by others when you were young. Why is it all happening to me now? Alright, number 2, come on, it's you. Xiao Yuhong didn't allow for an explanation. With a wave of his hand, a Wu Kang pill flew into his hand. He poured the thumb-sized pill into Zhong Qingxiao's hand and said, Take it. Master, disciple's injuries are already healed. What's the point of taking this parasol pill? Zhong Qingxiao said very aggrievedly. Xiao Yuhong pulled a long face and put on the air of a sect master. I told you to take it, so just take it. What are you being so long-winded for? Must I take it? Is there no room for discussion? Zhong Qingxiao asked. There's nothing to discuss. Apart from Xiao Hua, the other 3 said in unison. All right. Zhong Qingxiao accepted her fate and took the parasol pill. She then sat down cross-legged and stimulated the medicinal power. Although Zhong Qingxiao didn't have any external or internal injuries, in less than an incense stick's worth of time, Zhong Qingxiao opened her eyes. How is it? Number 2. Xiao Yuhong was a little nervous. Zhong Qingxiao shook her head, and Xiao Yuehong's heart immediately fell into an ice cave. Master, this pill is exactly the same as the one you refined before. Zhong Qingxiao said honestly. This is strange. Xiao Yuhong stared at the pill furnace, his brows furrowed. He muttered, the refining technique is the same these few times, even the timing of the yellow talisman is the same. What's the difference for no reason? Ayo tilde suddenly, Xiao Yuhong and Zhong Qingxiao said in unison, Xiao Hua, here, sect master. Hearing Xiao Yuhong call him, Xiao Hua naturally answered, I know. When the first batch of pills was refined, Xiao Hua was guarding the furnace. Zhong Qingxiao was very sure, but she said with some hesitation. Number 2 is right. The first batch of pills was guarded by Xiao Hua. Xiao Yuhong seemed to have found the root of the problem. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen sycamore pills flew to the shelf at the side. Then, several jade boxes flew in front of him. Come, Xiao Hua, Master will refine another cauldron of sycamore pills. You still stand guard at the side. This. All right. No matter what, Xiao Hua would never have thought that the strange thing in this pill would actually land on his head. For the next 7 days, Xiao Yuhong continued to refine pills like before. During this period, he carefully explained the details to Xiao Hua. He even explained some of the spells and the tricks of using the yellow talisman in detail. Xiao Hua actually benefited even more than the first time. However, during these 7 days, not only did Xiao Hua carefully guard, but Xiao Yuhong and the other 3 were also dazzled. They stared at Xiao Hua motionlessly to see what relationship Xiao Hua had with the pills. Needless to say, Xiao Hua didn't have time to close his eyes and cultivate. The strange starlight from outer space couldn't be projected, and the parasol pills couldn't be mutated. This is really strange. This time, it was still Zhong Qingxiao who tasted the parasol pills. After taking it, facing Xiao Yuehong's expectant gaze, Zhong Qingxiao shook her head slightly. Master, it still doesn't work. Ari, it's really strange. Xiao Yuhong was very disappointed. Could it be that it was a coincidence? Father. Xiao Xianrui thought for a moment and said with a smile, Since the first batch has a strange effect, then, why don't we do the same as the first time? Can't we get the same pills? Of course Father knows this. The techniques and yellow talismans are the same as the first time. There is no difference. Is this the same? Xiao Xianrui asked. Of course, it's exactly the same, Xiao Yuhong insisted. Unfortunately, as soon as this sentence came out, the eyes of the four people had the same expression of enlightenment, and they said in unison, Xiao Hua, me? What's wrong with me? This time, Xiao Hua really didn't expect it. He couldn't think of any other abnormal performance. Nothing, Xiao Hua. Master will refine the last batch of parasol pills. Just like when you refined the first batch of Peiyuan pill, do what you should do, don't worry about us. Xiao Hua understood and said with cupped hands, yes, sect master. Xiao Yuhong put the spiritual herbs into the pill furnace, and a few hand seals also entered the pill furnace. He said to Gong Mingwei and the others, let's go, you guys also go out, just like the first time. Disciple will stay. Zhong Qingxiao raised her hand. Oh, okay. Xiao Yuhong was of course not surprised, and only smiled and nodded. After Xiao Yuhong and the others left, Zhong Qingxiao said with a smile, little junior brother, what secret do you have? Why don't you dare to say it? Second senior brother, I really don't know. Xiao Hua also didn't know what to say. Of course, he didn't know why the medicinal pill was so strange. Zhong Qingxiao chatted for a while, then said with a smile, my time is up, little junior brother, you should do what you should do. Do what? Xiao Hua understood. Xiao Yuhong meant to do all the situations from the first time he refined the pill again. Okay, Xiao Hua secretly said in his heart. He sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. However, he was currently cultivating the second layer of qi refining, which was different from the first layer of qi refining. He also didn't know whether or not it would affect the medicinal pill's effectiveness. Seeing Xiao Hua sitting cross-legged and cultivating, Zhong Qingxiao walked to the cave entrance and looked back. She didn't have any expression and walked away. Xiao Yuhong was very punctual. Every once in a while, just like the first time he refined the pill, he urged the earth fire, struck out a yellow talisman, and did some hand seals. After finishing these things, he immediately left and didn't stay a moment longer. He strove to control all the time and steps to refine the Peiyuan pill in the same way. When Xiao Yuhong walked out of the alchemy room, he didn't look back. He walked a few steps to the left of the alchemy room into a cave. The mountain path was very smooth, and it didn't take long for him to arrive at a spacious space. The layout of this space was very simple. A cloud bed leaned against the stone wall. On the left side of the cloud bed was a jade table with large and small jade bottles. On the right side of the cloud bed were some jade boxes, a few jade slips, and a stack of silk-like book. On the opposite side of the cloud bed was a stone wall as smooth as a mirror. In front of the stone wall, Gong Mingwei, Zhong Qingxiao, and Xiao Xianrui were sitting cross-legged, staring at the stone wall. On the stone wall, there was a circular mirror about a foot long. Inside the mirror, all the movements in the alchemy room could be seen. Xiao Hua was sitting cross-legged with his palms facing the sky. His face was expressionless as he practiced the heart technique. How is it? Did you find any clues? Xiao Yuhong asked in a low voice as he entered the cave. Master, you and we have been watching for a long time, but we didn't find any clues. There's no reason for you to find out in such a short time, Zhong Qingxiao said with a smile. Alas, if I had known that there was a problem with the first batch of pills, I would have paid attention. Xiao Yuhong was somewhat regretful. The mirror technique in the cave was to make it convenient for him to observe everything in the alchemy room while he was resting in the cave. Usually, he didn't use it. The last time Xiao Hua was on duty in the alchemy room, Xiao Yuhong didn't use it at all. This time, in order to find the key to the problem, he used it. Father, it's been 5 days. Xiao Hua is in the alchemy room. Other than meditating, it's impossible for him to know that we are here to spy on him. Do you think the things in here have nothing to do with him? Xiao Yuhong shook his head. Father can't answer this question. Left and right, we are looking for clues. Even if we can't find anything, we can still refine pills, right? Master is also strange. Although this mirror technique can clearly see everything in the alchemy room, it isn't as exquisite as the control of divine sense. Master only needs to release divine sense, which is several times stronger than this mirror technique. Gong Mingwei voiced out his doubt. Xiao Yuhong smiled bitterly. You still don't know, right? Xiao Hua, he can sense Master's divine sense. If I release my divine sense, wouldn't he know? What? How is this possible? The three of them were abnormally surprised and looked at each other in dismay. -5. Chapter 1269. Xiao Hua is only in the second layer of the Qi refining realm. There's still a long way to go before he reaches the peak of the Qi refining realm. How can he sense divine thoughts? Xiao Xianrui couldn't understand. That's right. We're in the 11th layer of the Qi refining realm, but we don't even have a trace of divine thoughts. How can Xiao Hua do it? Zhong Qingxiao looked at Xiao Hua through the mirror with a very strange expression. This is what Xiao Hua told me himself. I don't know why either. Moreover, I also tested it with him. It's just as he said. Xiao Yuhong smiled bitterly. Our junior brother is becoming more and more mysterious. Gong Mingwei looked at Xiao Hua, who was cultivating with his eyes closed, and said thoughtfully. That's right. First, he practiced my Shong Huaming's cultivation method without any sluggishness. Then, for 3 years, he didn't make any progress. After taking 12 Peiyuan pill, which is enough to advance to the late stage of the Qi refining realm, he actually just advanced to the second layer of the Qi refining realm. Of course, the most incredible thing is that he was extremely lucky to find both the absorption fruit and the black tusk grass. Based on this, in the future, all the spiritual herbs that I use, Xiao Hua may even be able to find some 300-year-old linglong grass. Gong Mingwei sighed and said, moreover, the Peiyuan pill, which is extremely useful for cultivation, may also be related to him. More than that, he has never entered the pill room, but he actually knows the art of alchemy. Zhong Qingxiao laughed and said, although he doesn't admit it, the slight movement of his left and right hand's fingers is exactly like casting a spell, right? Father, you've really picked up a strange person. Ari, yes. Xiao Yuhong thought for a moment and said, he can use flying talismans faster than you late-stage Qi refining cultivators. Moreover, according to what he said, his strength is enormous. He can break a defensive talisman cast by a 5th or 6th layer Qi refining cultivator with his bare hand. Ah! Zhong Qingxiao and the other two sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at each other again. Their eyes were full of horror. Father! Xiao Hua, he can't be from the devil world. After a long while, Xiao Xianrui asked in a weak voice, it seems that only the devil realm has this kind of magical power in the cultivation world. Xiao Yuhong shook his head slightly. Over the past few days, I've been thinking carefully. 3 years ago, although the war between immortals and devils had just ended, although Master also picked up Xiao Hua on the way back from the Imperial Devil Valley, after all, that place was already far from the Imperial Devil Valley. On the contrary, it was very close to my Yellow Flower Ridge. Moreover, Master has also examined Xiao Hua's dantian and meridians. They are the same as our human race, and they don't seem to have cultivated. That's right, Master, during the 2 days you picked up Xiao Hua, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in our Yellow Flower Ridge. From the looks of it, it was as if someone was going through a tribulation in the legends. This Xiao Hua, could it be that he failed to pass the tribulation? Zhong Qingxiao used his extremely flexible brain. I don't think so. Xiao Yuhong still shook his head. Although I didn't catch up to the lightning and thunder at Yellow Flower Ridge, the thunderstorm happened in my Yellow Flower Ridge, and Xiao Hua wasn't here at that time. Moreover, if he failed to pass the tribulation, his soul would have been scattered and he would have fallen into the cycle of reincarnation. How could he be intact? But Xiao Hua has lost his memory after all. If there is no major change, how could it be like this? Gong Mingwei asked. I don't know. Looking at Xiao Hua's appearance, he is obviously an ordinary person who has never cultivated before. What major change can he have? Xiao Yuhong shook his head. But How can we explain Xiao Hua's series of strange things? Master. Zhong Qingxiao disagreed. The world is so big, there are many strange people. Xiao Hua might be a god who descended from the heavens and was born with a strange talent. Xiao Yuehong's face lit up, and maybe he is my Shang Huaming Underworld senior, using a great magical power to give my Shang Huaming Underworld the hope of revival. Zhong Qingxiao looked at Gong Mingwei, both of them were somewhat aghast. Forget it, who cares? Xiao Hua is honest. If he is really the key to refining this pill. Hehe, father, you have really picked up a treasure for our Shang Huaming Underworld. Xiao Shenrue laughed. Maybe our Shang Huaming Underworld can use this to become the fourth big sect in the country of Shi. It's still early, still early. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand. The most important thing now is to look at the specific reasons. Xiao Hua didn't know that there was a mirror technique in the cave next to him, nor did he know that Xiao Yuhong and the others were discussing him. He had already reviewed the art of alchemy when he first guarded the furnace, and the last time he listened to Xiao Yuehong's guidance, he understood a lot. The only thing he lacked was hands-on practice, so this time, he didn't make any hand seals and only closed his eyes to cultivate. Therefore, every night when Xiao Hua was cultivating, the strange starlight would still arrive as scheduled, wrapping the pill furnace in front of him within the starlight, and traces of the starlight were also absorbed by the Wu Kang pill. On the seventh day, Xiao Yuhong, Gong Mingwei, and the others appeared in the pill room on time. Can you collect the pills? Master. Seeing Xiao Yuhong and the others come in, Xiao Hua stood up and cupped his hands in greeting. Ien, Xiao Hua, you have worked hard. Stand aside. Xiao Yuhong nodded with a smile. The Parasol Underworld pill was a much lower grade healing pill than the Peiyuan pill. It was also the pill that Xiao Yuhong was most familiar with, so when he collected the pills, he didn't need any yellow talismans. After a few hand seals, Xiao Yuehong's divine sense swept over, and a trace of surprise immediately appeared on his face. Xiao Shenrue obviously saw it and couldn't help but ask, Father, how is it? I don't know yet, but this time, it's the same as the first time. 1 furnace, 24 Parasol Underworld pills. Ah! Gong Mingwei and the others were pleasantly surprised, because except for the first time, the next 2 furnaces all contained 18 pills. There's hope. Not only Xiao Yuhong, but Zhong Qingxiao and the others also had the same thought. With apprehension and suppressed surprise, Xiao Yuhong put the 24 Parasol Underworld pills into a jade bottle. Then, without waiting for the fire under the pill furnace to be extinguished, he threw a Parasol Underworld pill into his mouth. The pill dissolved into liquid and melted into his body, and Xiao Yuhong couldn't help but show a trace of excitement on his face. Then, that excitement turned into astonishment, and that astonishment became more and more intense until it finally turned into ecstasy. Xiao Shenrue and the others didn't understand and looked at Xiao Yuhong eagerly. This is simply the best Parasol Underworld pill. Xiao Yuhong finally opened his eyes and said, Father, how is this possible? The best Parasol Underworld pill you refined before was the middle grade. This Parasol Underworld pill is actually better than the upper grade. Xiao Shenrue couldn't help but blurt out, I, Shang Huaming, have never seen a best Parasol Underworld pill. It's definitely the best. Xiao Yuhong said resolutely and decisively. My ancestor once refined the upper-grade Parasol Underworld pill. When Master was trading with people outside the demon-resisting valley, he used it because of a fight. There's something strange in this Parasol Underworld pill. Perhaps you encountered it when you absorbed the Peiyuan pill. This thing increased the efficacy of the Parasol Underworld pill by more than 10 times. It's far from what the upper-grade Parasol Underworld pill can compare to. If this pill isn't the best Parasol Underworld pill, what other Parasol Underworld pill can be called the best? Then, Xiao Yuhong turned his head, stared at Xiao Hua, and asked, Xiao Hua, what did you do? Xiao Hua was shocked and said, Sect Master, I didn't do anything. Although you weren't around this time, I really didn't do anything other than cultivate. Of course, Xiao Yuhong knew that he didn't do anything. But the problem was that he didn't do anything. Why did the pills in the pill furnace change with him around? And without him around, the pills were still ordinary pills. Gong Mingwei and the others didn't ask. After all, they stared at the mirror for 7 days. Xiao Hua really didn't do anything. They just looked at him curiously, looking at this extremely ordinary-looking young man. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, senior sister. I really didn't do anything. Xiao Hua was creeped out by their stares and couldn't help but defend himself. I know you didn't do anything. Zhong Qingxiao smiled and said, I just want to see what my Shang Huaming's future god of fortune looks like. God of fortune? Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He only thought of exchanging spiritual herbs for spirit stones and the like for Shang Huaming's revitalization plan. He never thought of the use and value of the top-grade parasol underworld pill. Zhong Qingxiao and the others often went to the trading market, so they naturally knew what this top-grade pill meant. That was a top-grade pill that even the 100 Herbs Gate and 10,000 Flowers Valley couldn't take out. That was a top-grade pill that had a price but no market. Xiao Yuehong's face was also suffused with a layer of red light. He put the 23 top-grade parasol underworld pills into his storage bag and turned to ask, Xiao Hua, are you tired? Tired? Sect Master, the pill refining is done by Sect Master. Disciple is just guarding the pill furnace. There's nothing wrong with the pill furnace. Disciple is just guarding the pill furnace and cultivating. How can I be tired? Ian, that's good. Master will refine another cauldron of parasol underworld pills. What do you think? As Sect Master says, Disciple will cultivate anywhere. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Good, while you're refining pills, Master will teach you some of our sect's pill refining techniques. Xiao Yuhong tempted. Yes, Disciple understands. Xiao Hua's face was filled with gratitude. Immediately after, Gong Mingwei and the others returned to the other cave and watched through the mirror technique. Xiao Yuhong arranged the herbs and began to teach Shang Huaming's pill refining techniques to Xiao Hua. Of course, when it was time for Xiao Yuhong to leave, Xiao Yuhong didn't say anything and immediately left. Like this, another 7 days passed. As expected, another 24 top-grade parasol underworld pills were refined. Xiao Yuhong and the other 3 no longer had any doubts. These top-grade parasol underworld pills must be related to Xiao Hua. They also knew that such a strange thing would only happen when Xiao Hua was guarding the pill furnace alone. As for why, they couldn't say, and neither could Xiao Hua. Knowing this was enough. Because 3 days later, Xiao Yuhong began to throw the last batch of absorption fruits and black tusks into the pill furnace and began refining the last batch of Peiyuan pill. -5. Chapter 1270. Just as Xiao Yuhong was about to toss the last of the Peiyuan pill-absorbing fruit and black tusk grass into the cauldron, Xiao Shenrue's expression changed. Her gaze fell on the storage pouch at her waist. Xiao Yuhong stopped and turned around. Xiao Rui, what's the matter? When Xiao Shenrue heard her father's question, she patted her storage bag, and a yellow talisman appeared in her hand, emitting a pleasant sound and flashing a 5-colored brilliance. Father, this is the invitation talisman that Jiangan from the 100 Herbs Gate asked Xiao Hua to send over. She invites me to visit Yarrow Nong Peak after 100 days of meditation. Xiao Shenrue looked down at the invitation talisman that Jiangan sent over. She felt a little uneasy. In the past 10 days, she had been investigating the secret of the Peiyuan pill and had forgotten about this matter. 100 days. Xiao Yuhong was taken aback. He grinned and snorted coldly. The 100 Herbs Gate's calculations are quite accurate. I almost forgot about it. I wonder if they can refine a top-grade pill no matter how accurate their calculations are. Of course they can't. Is there even a need to ask? Zhong Qingxiao said. All right, I hereby announce that your reflection in the tranquil cave ends today. Xiao Yuhong was in a good mood. He waved his hand and said, your cultivation will return to normal. Yes, we understand. Gong Mingwei and the rest bowed. TSK, nothing has changed in the first place. Xiao Hua secretly rejoiced in his heart. Although he didn't know where Gong Mingwei and the others were in the last few days, he understood that with the curiosity of these people, How could they obediently cultivate in the tranquil heart cave? But, oh father, this Jiangan. I feel that we should give her an answer. Xiao Xianrui's eyes flashed and her tone was a little strange. How could Xiao Yuhong not know what his daughter was thinking? He looked at the cauldron above the earth fire and waved his sleeve. All right, we will not refine pills today. As he spoke, he walked out of the alchemy room. Hearing that her father didn't want to refine pills, Xiao Xianrui's heart skipped a beat. She thought that her father was angry, but listening to his tone, there was no special anger. Xiao Xianrui had to look at Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao, who were also a little unhappy, with an embarrassed expression on her face. When Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao saw their junior sister's lovely face and pitiful expression, their hearts softened for no reason. The two of them looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. Then, they followed their master out. Xiao Xianrui followed closely behind the two of them. Only Xiao Hua shrugged his shoulders with a relaxed expression. He also walked out of the alchemy room where he had stayed for dozens of days. When they arrived outside Cherishing Birch Peak, a patch of brilliant sunlight sprinkled down on the foothills. It was quite warm, and the countless flowers, trees, and grass seemed to be thriving. Xiao Yuhong squinted his eyes and raised his head, looking at the clear blue sky. His expression was somewhat strange. When everyone had walked behind him, he used his finger to point at the thick black clouds above his head, as well as the faintly discernible lightning within the clouds. He said, "This astronomical phenomenon is rather strange. It's clearly a clear sky, yet there are thunderclouds. If there are thunderclouds, then there's no rain. It's already been several days." "Oh, yes, Master. Disciple saw it 7 days ago by chance. Why is it still like this today?" Zhong Qingxiao was also puzzled. "Master, this kind of weather seems to have happened 3 years ago. It was after Master went to the Imperial Demon Valley and brought Xiao Hua back." Gong Mingwei woke up and said, "I don't know how long this clear day and dark clouds lasted." Then, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Disciple was scared to death. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was also chaotic. I couldn't draw spiritual energy into my body. Could it be that something happened again? Xiao Yuhong looked at the sky again and whispered, "Little Rui, do you want to go to the medicine farmer peak?" "Father." Xiao Xianrui called, but didn't say whether she wanted to go or not. "If we talk about scenery, my Yellow Flower Ridge is definitely not inferior to the medicine farmer peak. It's just that you have lived here for more than 20 years and have turned a blind eye to it. But even if you have turned a blind eye to it, there are many winding paths that lead to secluded places. As long as you put in the effort, you can find the valuable places. You see, even Xiao Hua can find rare spiritual herbs in places that you can't see. Little Rui, why don't you covet the beautiful scenery?" Xiao Yuhong looked at the flowing water outside the mountain and said softly. Xiao Xianrui knew that her father's words had a hidden meaning. Her face was slightly red. She thought for a moment and said, "Father, I know that the scenery of my Yellow Flower Ridge is unique, but I also want to go out and have a look. Maybe the scenery of the Medicine Farmer Peak is more unique. Is there a more beautiful scenery suitable for me to see? If I stay in this Yellow Flower Ridge, I will never know what the scenery outside the mountain is like." Gong Mingwei's face changed slightly, and Zhong Qingxiao clenched her teeth. Alas, senior sister is determined to go to the Medicine Farmer Peak this time. This Jiang Fan. How can he compare with eldest senior brother and second senior brother? Xiao Hua sighed. "Well, little Rui, you are not young, but, speaking of which, for us cultivators, you are not old. You still have a lot of time, you don't have to be like this. Alas, I have said what I should say. Little Rui, this road of cultivation is still your own path. I can't walk it for you." Xiao Yuhong nodded slightly. "Yes, I understand." Xiao Xianrui looked at her father with a trace of determination in her eyes. "Well, Mingwei, Qingxiao, you two send your junior sister to the Medicine Farmer Peak." Xiao Yuhong said with some excitement on his face, "Within 100 days, 3 of my disciples have stepped into the 11th level of the Qi refining realm from the 10th level of the Qi refining realm. This is an extremely rare thing in the country of Xi. Even if the 100 Herbs Gate has a lot of elixirs, they may not be able to do it. When Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao heard this, their faces were also filled with pride. In their hearts, they both made up their minds to practice harder when they came back. They would let the 100 Herbs Gate see which one was the real hero. Thinking of this, the two of them coincidentally looked at Xiao Hua, who was standing quietly beside them. Xiao Hua seemed to understand their meaning and nodded slightly. Yes, Master, we obey. Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao answered Xiao Yuhong in a loud voice. Xiao Yuhong was obviously stunned and a little surprised. He warned, "Little Rui, the 100 Herbs Gate will certainly be surprised by your sudden advancement in cultivation. They will certainly ask, you know how to answer." "Haha, father, don't worry, I naturally know." Xiao Shenrui's laughter was like a silver bell. "Good, you go and wait." Xiao Yuhong waved his sleeve and took out his flying boat from his storage bag. He said, "Use this. Go and come back early." "Thank you, Master." Gong Mingwei cupped his hands in thanks and took a small jade pendant from Xiao Yuhong. Using his spiritual power, the jade pendant emitted a hazy brilliance and the flying boat suddenly grew in size. Gong Mingwei jumped into the flying boat first, followed by Zhong Qingxiao and Xiao Shenrui. Xiao Yuhong transmitted a few more words to Gong Mingwei. After Gong Mingwei nodded repeatedly, Xiao Yuhong said, "You guys go first. I'll send a message to the 100 Herbs Gate and have them come out to welcome you." "Father, I will go and stay for a few days. I will be back soon." Xiao Shenrui smiled. "Yes, father will wait for the message from the 100 Herbs Gate." Xiao Yuhong waved his hand. Gong Mingwei drove the flying boat and soared into the sky. He went out of Shang Huaming's protective array and headed in the direction of the 100 Herbs Gate. As the flying boat flew away, Xiao Yuhong floated in the air and followed it out of the formation. Only when he saw that the flying boat was out of sight did he withdraw his divine sense. He was puzzled as he thought to himself, what's going on with this 10,000 Poisons sect? If they covet Shang Huaming, why did they only attack once and not do anything else? If they don't have any ulterior motives, why did they send 2 Foundation establishment stage elders at once? The strangest thing is that they just want to scare the children and then return to the 10,000 Poisons sect. I really don't understand what they mean. Xiao Yuhong didn't understand the meaning of the 10,000 Poisons sect, but he wouldn't be an idiot to send a message talisman to ask. He just wanted to make the best use of his time to refine the best quality elixirs and start on Shang Huaming's development plan. It was best if the 10,000 Poisons sect didn't find fault with him now. After Shang Huaming's strength increased greatly, there would naturally be a day when the truth came to light. After returning to the Grand Formation, Xiao Yuhong did the same as before. He inspected the Grand Formation before returning to Cherishing Flower Peak. Since the myriad Poison sect attacked Shang Huaming, Xiao Yuhong would personally inspect the Grand Formation every other day. Moreover, he would leave a strand of his divine sense on the Grand Formation so as to prevent the myriad Poison sect from attacking again. On Shihua Peak, Xiao Hua was still waiting. When he saw Xiao Yuhong land, he smiled and said, "Senior sister and the others left?" "Yen, they left. Your eldest senior brother and the others used the flying boat. They should be back in 2 days." Xiao Yuhong nodded. Then, "Sect Master, are we going to continue refining elixirs?" Xiao Hua asked. "Oh, no need. In 2 days, wait for your eldest senior brother and the others to come back." Xiao Yuhong raised his head and looked at the dark clouds that seemed to be inlaid with flaws. He smiled and said, "You've worked hard these past few days. Rest for a while first." "Yes, Sect Master. In fact, this disciple isn't tired at all," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "It's all Sect Master's work. This disciple just sat on the side and watched." Xiao Yuhong pondered for a moment, seemingly hesitant, but in the end, he still asked, "Xiao Hua, you really don't know the reason for the top-grade elixirs?" Xiao Hua frowned and shook his head helplessly. Reporting to Sect Master, although this disciple doesn't remember the past, this disciple definitely regards Shang Huaming as his home. If this disciple knows the reason for the elixirs, this disciple will definitely report it to Sect Master. "Ari, that's not necessary. Xiao Yuhong waved his hand. Everyone has their own secrets and their own ideas. Others can't force them. Xiao Hua's heart jumped and he thought, not good, could it be? Sect master is already suspecting me. But what could the sect leader suspect? There's no evidence at all. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yuhong changed the topic. Just like little Rui. Master never thought that. She was so young, and so early to have the idea of dual cultivation. -5. Chapter 1271. Xiao Hua relaxed and said with a smile, disciple also doesn't understand. What's so good about that Jiang Fan? He's not even fit to carry the shoes of our Shong Huaming's eldest disciple. Why did senior sister take a fancy to him? Fat. Xiao Yuhong almost laughed out loud. He waved his hand and said, although this is true, you absolutely can't say it in front of little Rui. Disciple knows. Xiao Hua said with a smile, disciple will only say it in his heart. Xiao Hua, you're a wonderful person. You usually look honest, but you're calculating in your heart. Sometimes you follow the rules and do things by the book, but sometimes you're quick-witted and capricious. You know how to adapt to changes. Compared to Ming Wei's inflexibility but lack of quick-wittedness, compared to Qing Xiao's quick-wittedness but lack of seriousness, you're much stronger. Master really wants to accept you into the sect. Xiao Hua blushed with shame and said in a low voice, disciple is stupid. I haven't broken through to the third layer of qi refining. I've made things difficult for sect master. Xiao Yuhong shook his head slightly. Master also thought so 100 days ago, but, now, even if you give Master 100 guts, Master doesn't dare to accept you into the sect. Ah! Sect Master, what do you mean? Xiao Hua was shocked. Did disciple do something wrong? You don't accept disciples? Don't worry, don't worry. Seeing Xiao Hua turn pale with fright, Xiao Yuhong also felt uncomfortable and comforted him. Master is also very conflicted. Xiao Hua, especially these days, it's not that Master doesn't want to accept you into the sect, but I, Shong Huaming, am really too young. I'm afraid I'll affect your cultivation. Ah! Sect Master, do you know disciple's origin? Xiao Hua asked anxiously with joy on his face. Master, how would I know? Xiao Yuhong smiled bitterly, then waved his hand and said, follow me. Yes. Xiao Hua nodded and followed Xiao Yuhong to the front of the secret chamber on Mincy Peak. You came to Shong Huaming's inheritance palace last time, right? How do you feel? Xiao Yuhong asked Xiao Hua as he opened the restriction. Disciple listened to eldest senior brother briefly, but disciple didn't understand and didn't worship the statue. Xiao Hua said honestly, Millimeter, not to mention your eldest senior brother, even I am a little confused about the origin of Shong Huaming. Xiao Yuhong brought Xiao Hua into the inheritance palace. This time, Xiao Hua didn't dare to look at the spell again. He lowered his head and followed in front of Xiao Yuhong. Watch the gods. Xiao Yuhong first bowed respectfully, then looked at Xiao Hua and said with a smile, have we met before? Xiao Hua shook his head blankly. This disciple has never seen such a god. The legacy palace, huh? If you want to talk about it, it should be a place to pay respects to the past sect masters of my Shong Huaming sect, or perhaps a place to commemorate the founding ancestor. But, the memorial tablets of the past sect masters of my Shong Huaming sect are all over there. Xiao Yuhong pointed to a remote location in the distance. Xiao Hua turned his head to take a look. It was very far from here, and there wasn't anything grand about it. There was only a jade table, and he couldn't even see it clearly. As for the memorial tablets, there are only 30 of them. Master is the 36th sect master. Your grandmaster traveled far away in his early years and hasn't returned yet. However, the life tablet he left behind has already been shattered. Presumably, he has already fallen in a foreign land, so this 30th memorial tablet was personally placed by Master. Xiao Yuhong pointed to the distance. He looked at Xiao Hua with some confusion and said, the life tablet is a kind of jade tablet refined by the disciples of Shong Huaming sect who have reached the 12th stage of the qi refining realm and above. They draw out a strand of their divine sense and combine it with a secret technique of my Shonghuaming sect to refine it. This jade tablet is placed in the inheritance palace. Only when the disciple falls will it shatter, and the sect master of Shonghuaming sect will know about the disciple's situation. This kind of life tablet can be found in every sect of the Xiaoyu continent. Millimeter, this disciple understands. Presumably, it won't be long before eldest senior brother and the others can also draw out their divine sense and make life tablet. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Yes, being able to make a life tablet in itself is a kind of affirmation of a cultivator's cultivation level. It is also a kind of honor. Xiao Yuhong sighed with emotion. Oh, I've said too much. Our Shonghuaming sect should have a total of 35 memorial tablets, but when Master took over, 5 of them were missing. Master asked your grandmaster, but he also didn't know. Later, when Master had nothing to do, he looked through the ancient records and shockingly discovered that there were no records of the first 5 grandmasters at all. Therefore, although I know the name of this statue is W.A., I don't know the grandmaster's name. Whether this statue is the founder of the sect or a deity that my Shonghuaming sect worships is also not clear. This disciple feels that this should be a deity. Xiao Hua probed. The cultivation world is filled with all kinds of strange things. It's not something that people of our cultivation level can understand. Xiao Yuhong shook his head slightly. Although Master thinks the same as you, but I keep feeling that it's a bit strange. I keep feeling that this WA is the founder of my Shonghuaming sect. Ian, don't ask me. As for what's strange, Master also doesn't know. And our sect's ancient records are also strange. There aren't many records about cultivation techniques. Instead, there are many strange stories. There are many things that other sects have never recorded. Sometimes, Master even suspects that our Shonghuaming sect's cultivation techniques were casually obtained and blindly made for us to cultivate. They are far from being passed down by our grandmaster. In fact, Xiao Hua was somewhat disapproving. This deity was clearly not a human. Even if its upper body was humanoid, it didn't mean that it could speak, cultivate, or establish a sect. Xiao Yuehong's idea was most likely a bit far-fetched. He wanted to make Shonghuaming's birth noble. Although Xiao Hua's face didn't reveal his inner thoughts, Xiao Yuhong seemed to have sensed it. He smiled and said, Xiao Hua, don't think that Master's words are a bit empty. It's a bit like I'm sticking gold on myself. Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple just feels that sect master's thinking is a bit unimaginable. Xiao Hua said in a panic. Master has said so much because I want you to know that it is precisely because I, Shonghuaming, have a somewhat unique background that I know some rare things. And these things, even the sect masters of the 3 great sects in the state of Shi may not know. Xiao Yuhong said solemnly, and these things will let you know that what Master is about to say is not unfounded and not groundless. What I'm about to say. Xiao Hua was obviously stunned. He looked at Xiao Yuhong, not knowing what shocking things he would say next. Actually, my Shonghuaming sect's cultivation technique is water-based. It's suitable for people with water-based physiques to cultivate. Your eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and senior sister all have water-based physiques. So, cultivating my Shonghuaming sect's cultivation technique will complement each other and make rapid progress. Presumably, your second senior brother has already explained this basic knowledge to you. Yes, second senior brother has told disciple before. The cultivation techniques in the cultivation world are roughly divided into the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. And the physiques of cultivators are also divided into these 5 types. If one has the same physique, cultivating the cultivation technique of the same attribute is most suitable. If one cultivates other cultivation techniques that don't counter each other, then the result will be twice the effort for half the result. If one cultivates a cultivation technique that counters each other, then one will not have great success and may even be in danger. Yen, it's roughly like that. Actually, there are many things to pay attention to. You will slowly understand them in the future. Master won't say much here. Xiao Yuhong nodded, then took out a fist-sized bead from his storage bag and said, Do you still remember this bead? Xiao Hua glanced at it and nodded. Disciple remembers. 2 years ago, after Disciple entered the first level of Qi refining, Disciple's cultivation didn't make any progress. So, Sect Master let Disciple use it. This bead is the 5 elements bead that detects the body's attribute. As Xiao Yuhong spoke, he brought the bead close to his body and struck it with a spell. The bead emitted a dazzling blue brilliance. Master is of the water attribute, so this bead emitted a blue brilliance. Xiao Yuhong took the bead away and said, "You also know that Master is a bit lazy." Normally, when the sect accepts a disciple and imparts a cultivation technique to the first level of Qi refining, the first step is to test the disciple's attribute and see if it matches the sect's cultivation technique. If the attribute doesn't match, then the disciple's perception and other conditions will be considered. Only when the disciple meets the sect's requirements will the cultivation technique be imparted. Master hasn't accepted a disciple for many years, and you are the only one. So, when I imparted the cultivation technique to you, I didn't test it. When you stepped into the first level of Qi refining, Master was pleasantly surprised. Master thought that your body was of the water attribute and that your aptitude was even more outstanding. But afterwards, when I saw that you didn't advance, I thought of this problem. Do you still remember the situation at that time? Disciple remembers. At that time, this bead simply didn't emit any brilliance. Sect Master's face was very shocked. Xiao Hua naturally remembered. Master didn't say anything at that time, because a constitution like yours without any attribute, and I've never heard of it before. Even a mediocre person with all 5 elements would emit a kind of white light. These people can practice any cultivation technique, but they can't practice any cultivation technique to the extreme. Unless they have the highest aptitude, they won't be able to make a name for themselves in the cultivation world. Xiao Yuhong smiled and said, "However, a person like you, without the slightest brilliance, Master has never heard of it before. If you weren't in my Shong Huaming, then no one would be able to explain your origins to you. Then, disciples' origins?" Xiao Hua's face lit up with joy as he asked urgently, "Didn't I just say it? My Shong Huaming's records are very strange. Master also didn't finish reading them completely. It was only when Master saw that your constitution was special that I thought of going to the ancient records to look it up. Very fortunately, in an unknown jade slip, Master found a record that somewhat matched your constitution. That's..." Xiao Hua couldn't help but urge, "How is it similar to disciples?" The ancient records say that there are celestials in the overseas Kanwu Island. Celestials are incomparably tall and their constitution is different from that of ordinary people. They aren't divided into the 5 elements. Celestials have extremely long lifespans and their cultivation progress is extremely slow. However, their magic power is boundless. The cultivators of the Xiaoyu continent can't compare to them. Overseas celestials. Xiao Hua was greatly distracted. I came from overseas. -5. Chapter 1272. Xiao Yuhong shrugged his shoulders. "Xiao Hua, I only said that you are extremely similar to the celestial race overseas. Sea beasts roam freely in the sea, that's not the world of cultivators. Even nascent soul seniors don't dare to go deep. Even if you are a celestial, it's impossible for you to come to my Dawn Rain continent. Oh, also, celestials are giants. I reckon that it's because their meridians are several times more than us cultivators that their magic power increases slowly during cultivation. Although you are tall, you are only taller than me by a head. You are far from being a giant. Of course. I can't say for sure that you are absolutely unrelated to the celestial group." Xiao Yuhong smiled. "When your magic power is profound and your magical powers are extensive, you can go overseas to take a look. Strange, Sect Master, if no one has returned from overseas, how can there be such records in our sect's ancient books?" Xiao Hua suddenly asked. "This? I don't know." Xiao Yuhong naturally thought about it long ago. He only shook his head and said, "I'm just stating facts and telling you." Next, I want to talk about your meridians. My meridians. Are there any peculiarities? Xiao Hua rubbed his hands naturally, as if his meridians were there. This, whether or not it's peculiar, I can't say for sure. Xiao Yuhong looked pensive. Didn't I say just now that I, Shong Huaming, don't have many cultivation techniques, but I do have a lot of other miscellaneous techniques. However, the majority of them can't be cultivated. I was curious in my early years and practiced an unnamed technique. It's used to detect the cultivation of demon beast. Detect the cultivation of demon beasts. Xiao Hua was puzzled. What's the use of this? I don't know. I once tried this technique in the depths of Yellow Flower Ridge, but it didn't have any effect. Xiao Yuhong was somewhat embarrassed, but then his face lit up. The only place it can be used is on your meridians. Me? My meridians? Detect the cultivation of demon beasts. Xiao Hua jumped in fright. Sect Master, you don't think I'm a demon beast, right? No, you can be a demon beast. Xiao Yuhong said with a smile, if you were a demonic beast, then your cultivation would be at least in the demigod realm. How could you be in the chi refining realm? Divinity transformation? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat for no reason. Just as he was about to ask, Xiao Yuhong continued, only demonic beasts in the deification realm can take human form, and to take human form like you, I'm afraid it's not some tribulation. Xiao Hua nodded slightly. He wanted to ask something, but he threw it to the back of his mind. Actually, when I picked you up outside, I had already checked your body. Your dantian and meridians did not have any traces of cultivation, but what makes me think that your meridians are very special? How should I put it? Although your meridians don't show any signs of cultivation, they are very tough and very lively. Perhaps you could say that they are full of life force. Because I've practiced that technique before, I'm somewhat sensitive to this. After I brought you to Shihua Peak, I used that technique to examine your meridians. Your meridians seem to be alive. How is this possible? Xiao Hua was extremely astonished. I only said that they seem to be alive, that's all. To be more specific, they seem to be like a snake. Like a snake's meridians. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Yes, I was also astonished, so I left you at Shihua Peak. I went to the secret room to check the ancient records. When you woke up, you didn't see me and walked down Shihua Peak by yourself and fell into the cold pond. Then, did Sect Master find anything? Hehe, how could I find anything? I only felt that your meridians were different. As for whether they were real or not, how would I know? Then, he looked at the statue of Wa floating in the air and muttered, perhaps it's because I, Shong Huaming, have some inexplicable connection with this serpent-tailed deity. That's why I thought so much. Even a nascent soul or spirit-severing stage senior might not know about this matter. Xiao Yuhong looked at Xiao Hua with a smile and said, I've said so much. You must have been confused long ago. Xiao Hua bowed and smiled bitterly. Disciple naturally understands. Sect Master said so much because Disciple's origin is unknown and there are so many strange things about Disciple's body. And these strange things can only be faintly perceived by Sect Master. Others definitely won't be able to discover them. Ari, yes. Xiao Yuhong sighed and said, if your aptitude alone wasn't enough, I wouldn't be worried. But now it seems that it's far from what I thought back then, so I don't dare to easily take you into Shong Huaming. But all of this is just Sect Master's imagination, Xiao Hua said somewhat naively. Hehe, catch it. Xiao Yuhong threw out the bead in his hand and let Xiao Hua catch it. He made a hand seal and said, you don't have any of the 5 elements. This is the most obvious evidence. But when he said this, the 5 elements bead in Xiao Hua's hand gradually lit up and emitted an extremely faint red brilliance. How did you become a fire attribute? Xiao Yuhong was stunned. Although the red brilliance in front of him was very faint and shallow, it was still a brilliance. This was absolutely undeniable. Sect Master, you see, you made a mistake, right? Xiao Hua said in surprise. This, the attribute of the Constitution, can it still be changed? Xiao Yuhong made another hand seal. The bead still emitted a red light, but it didn't look like it didn't have any light. Strange, strange. Xiao Yuhong shook his head vigorously. There wasn't any light before. This, you saw it yourself. Hihi, disciple forgot how many years it was. Xiao Hua naturally denied it. It's only been 2 years. How did it become many years? Xiao Yuhong glared at him. Xiao Hua's eyes were wide open and very spirited. He looked at Xiao Yuhong with sparkling eyes. Sect master, disciple really doesn't remember. Disciple knows that disciple's constitution is a fire attribute. Although cultivating Shong Huaming's heart technique is a bit far-fetched, I've already cultivated to the 2nd level of qi refining and haven't seen any abnormalities. Ah, okay. How could Xiao Yuhong not know Xiao Hua's thoughts? He just waved his hand. Master has already said so much. Presumably, you only remember Master's thoughts. You should have an incredible background. There's no need to enter a small sect like Shong Huaming. Seeing Xiao Hua smile and not answer, he said again, let's go. Master will take you out. Go back to cherishing Flower Peak's medicine garden. Take advantage of these few days to think carefully. Master, we'll go through the ancient books and see if your constitution's change is related to the sect master. Yes, sect master. Xiao Hua agreed. He didn't have any plans to think about it again. Following the sect master out of the inheritance palace, Xiao Hua bowed and flew back to cherishing Flower Peak. Xiao Yuhong stood there, looking at Xiao Hua's speed that was a bit faster than Gong Mingwei and the others. A bitter smile appeared on his face. How could he not want to accept Xiao Hua as a disciple? Not to mention 3 years of feelings, just Xiao Hua's ability to refine top-grade medicinal pills was enough to make him laugh for several days. But it was precisely because Xiao Hua had no clue about his origins that Xiao Yuhong was very worried. He was afraid that a moment of inappropriateness would bring disaster to his little Shong Huaming. Ah, let's leave it to the heavens. Xiao Yuhong turned and entered the secret room again. Yellow Flower Ridge's night sky was originally very quiet. Usually, the sound of insects and frogs would be heard from time to time, giving people the illusion of a secluded orchid in an empty valley. But these few days, it was different from before. Not to mention the thick dark clouds gradually expanding, covering the entire Yellow Flower Ridge, the bright moonlight couldn't penetrate. Just the lightning that leaped out from the dark clouds brought a suffocating pressure to Yellow Flower Ridge. Not to mention Xiao Yuhong and Xiao Hua, even the common sounds of insects and frogs had disappeared. The entire Yellow Flower Ridge was deathly silent, as if all the living things had hidden in a place they thought was safe. Xiao Hua's heart throbbed. The meridians in his body were even more bizarre. Just as Xiao Yuhong had said, they seemed to have a life of their own. Xiao Hua could clearly sense that his meridians, under this silent pressure, had a kind of fear, a kind of excitement, and a kind of pleasant surprise. Moreover, his entire meridians were trembling, wriggling slightly. Only when the pressure reached the Shanzhong acupoint in his heart, his meridians were firmly suppressed. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on him, unable to budge at all. With such strange meridians, Xiao Hua naturally couldn't cultivate. He wanted to go to Minushi Peak, but he was afraid that Xiao Yuhong would see the abnormality in his meridians and not put him into Shenhua Ming. Therefore, after looking at the spirit herbs in the medicinal garden and finding nothing inappropriate, he directly went to the summit of Shihua Peak. The summit of Shihua Peak was also windless. The surrounding air seemed to be stagnant. Xiao Hua stood there with a heavy heart, as if a great danger was gathering in the air. Strange. What kind of unforeseen event could happen? Xiao Hua was rather puzzled. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, the air slightly moved, and then, unable to be stopped, a gale suddenly rose in the entire Shihua Peak. The wind came swiftly and violently. Xiao Hua almost couldn't open his eyes. Hualala, the sound of water could still be heard in the deathly still night sky despite the gale. Little white. Xiao Hua forcefully opened his eyes. He had already seen a little white snake slowly flying out from the mountain stream of Shihua Peak at the place where the sound of water and wind came from. At this moment, Little White didn't seem to see Xiao Hua. That little snake's head was straight up, its thin red tongue would stretch out from time to time. Those bean-sized eyes flashed with a stern look, staring straight at the sky, unyielding and provocative. This battle array is directed at Little White. Xiao Hua immediately understood. This guy, what is he trying to do? Without waiting for Xiao Hua to think further, the dark clouds above Shihua Peak suddenly emitted the sound of thunder. The entire dark cloud gradually turned red, as if it was being burned by fire. This fiery red spread extremely quickly, and in the blink of an eye, all the dark clouds had turned into one color. Moreover, within these fiery clouds, ear-splitting thunder was brewing. Tribulation? Xiao Hua instantly recalled what his second senior brother had said. 3 years ago, this yellow flower ridge had been struck by lightning. It seemed like a lightning tribulation. Little White's lightning tribulation? Xiao Hua somewhat didn't believe it, but just as his doubts were born, a dragon's roar came from Little White's mouth. At the same time, Little White's small snake body suddenly expanded. -5. Chapter 1273. Under the thunderous tribulation clouds, Little White let out a dragon's roar. Its entire body suddenly swelled up like a balloon. It grew to the same size as Cherishing Flower Peak and was thicker than dozens of water vats combined. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge dragon. This is Little White. Xiao Hua didn't dare to believe his own eyes. He rubbed his eyes with his hands and looked carefully. Of course, it was a huge white dragon. This huge white dragon coiled its huge body and was slowly twisting in the air above Cherishing Flower Peak. A kind of silent pressure gradually spread from the majestic dragon's body. However, in Xiao Hua's eyes, there were many places on the dragon's winding body where the dragon's scales had yet to form. There were also many places where the 4 claws were missing. Even the dragon's head, the dragon's horns, and the dragon's shape were still empty. This is Little White's lightning tribulation. As long as it survives the lightning tribulation, it can transform into a dragon. Xiao Hua instantly understood. Right at this moment, the lightning tribulation that had been brewing for a long time fell from the sky like a thunderbolt the moment all the tribulation clouds lit up at the same time. Seeing the lightning flashing and falling from the sky, that little white dragon seemed to have already made plans. Its winding body wriggled faster and its huge head let out a deafening dragon's roar. It opened its big mouth and a waterfall-like blue brilliance shot out from its mouth and rushed straight into the air. ZZZ tilde a light sound, like boiling water being poured on top of snow, was heard. That blue brilliance simply didn't last long under the golden lightning and was completely torn apart. The entire brilliance gradually melted along the edges of the tear and the lightning streaked across the sky, about to hit the little white dragon's head. Logically speaking, this lightning tribulation was Little White's dragon transformation tribulation and had nothing to do with a cultivator like Xiao Hua. However, the instant the lightning tribulation struck, Xiao Hua once again felt fear and uneasiness in his meridians. Xiao Hua immediately remembered that during the lightning tribulation, there was a certain distance away from the person undergoing the tribulation. Otherwise, it was extremely easy to be affected by the lightning tribulation. Although this lightning tribulation was for demonic beasts, it might also be harmful to cultivators. When he thought up to here, Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed, and he slapped the flight talisman, causing his figure to instantly soar up before charging down Cherishing Flower Peak. However, just as his figure flew into the air, within the space of his mind, the sparkling cube of light suddenly spun at an extremely fast speed, emitting a kind of strange fluctuation. The lightning tribulation that was originally striking towards Whitey actually split into half and struck towards Xiao Hua's body. Hey! Zun Yunzi, who is this person? Far away from Yellow Flower Ridge, in the air, there was an oval mirror reflecting the scene of Shihua Peak. However, the scene was a bit blurry, especially when the lightning tribulation descended, causing the mirror to shake. Facing the mirror were 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was wearing a rainbow-colored dress decorated with bird feathers. She had an egg-shaped face and a pair of eyes that looked both happy and angry. Sitting beside her was a young cultivator wearing a daoist robe with a thin face. The cultivator held a long sword in his hand and frowned as he looked at the mirror before him. He was the one who had asked the question. How would I know? She's only at the first level of qi refining. I reckon she's Shang Huaming's disciple who hasn't entered the sect yet. The one who answered him was a tall, fair-skinned, and beardless Daoist with an incomparably handsome appearance. He looked rather young. These three people looked very young, but their cultivations were all unfathomable. The last one to answer was the nascent soul cultivator who had instructed the 10,000 Poisons sect to attack Shang Huaming. His name had already been called out, and it was Zun Yunzi. Zun Yunzi was the sect master of the Shanghua sect, one of the three great cultivation sects in the country of Xi. Who else could stand side by side with him besides the sect masters of the three great cultivation sects in the country of Xi, Daoist Liu Ming of the Seven Secrets sect and Fairy Ying Zhuo of the Xuanyan sect? This Shang Huaming's disciple really has no manners. What is he doing on the mountain peak in the middle of the night? Fairy Ying Zhuo frowned and coldly said, "Oh no, why did the lightning tribulation split into half and strike him?" Even Zun Yunzi himself couldn't help but cry out when he saw the lightning tribulation that was as thick as a bucket strike Xiaohua. His courting death. Daoist Liu Ming snorted. A mere qi refining disciple actually dares to come to the lightning tribulation area. That's a place that even nascent soul cultivators like us don't dare to set foot in. He must be tired of living. It's a little strange. Zun Yunzi was slightly taken aback. The lightning tribulation of this demonic beast, it's unlikely to affect mortals. With a burst of crackling sounds, the mirror in front of the three people suddenly shattered, and they couldn't see anything. "Let's go." Zun Yunzi didn't have time to say anything else. His figure turned into a rainbow and shot straight towards the yellow flower ridge. As he flew, he transmitted his voice, "The second wave of lightning tribulation has already arrived. I don't know how many heavenly thunders this demonic beast has. If we're late, I'm afraid that demonic beast's Niden will transform into a dragon and we'll have to return empty-handed." Daoist Liu Ming and Fairy Ying were also turned into rainbows, and their speed didn't seem to be slower than Zun Yunzi's. Both of them flew towards the yellow flower ridge. On the yellow flower ridge, Whitey's head was struck by lightning. Half of it split off and hit Xiaohua, who was trying to escape in midair. Under the incomparably powerful heavenly thunders, Xiaohua simply didn't have any power to fight back. Before the heavenly thunders could reach his body, he fainted. His body fell from midair into the rubble of Shihua Peak. The bucket-sized heavenly thunders, with a trace of deep red in them, rapidly struck Xiaohua, instantly destroying his Daoist robe and completely charring his skin. However, when Xiaohua's body was about to be destroyed by the heavenly thunders, the light cube in his mind flashed continuously, and all the heavenly thunders were absorbed by the light cube. After absorbing the heavenly thunders, the light cube suddenly expanded, becoming slightly bigger than before. As the light cube expanded, some strange things came out from the light cube, and were sent into Xiaohua's mind. The heavenly thunders from the ninth heaven were fatal to Xiaohua, but to Whitey, who was in the midst of transforming into a dragon, it was different. Facing the heavenly thunders, Whitey twisted its body, trying to dodge with all its might. However, the heavenly thunders seemed to have already locked onto Whitey. No matter how it dodged, the bucket-sized heavenly thunders accurately hit Whitey's dragon head. Whitey roared again, showing an extremely painful appearance. Its already dragonized body trembled, and traces of blood seeped out from its body. And as the splendor of the lightning continued to strike and curl around Whitey's body, the previously unclear dragon scales, dragon horns, dragon whiskers, and so on also gradually appeared, and gradually solidified. As Whitey's body trembled, Whitey's entire essence, energy, and spirit seemed to have been sucked out of thin air. It gradually weakened, and gradually became sluggish. When Whitey powerlessly floated in midair, the lightning on its body also gradually disappeared, and the tribulation clouds in the sky began to flicker, brewing the second heavenly thunder. Actually, when Whitey was struck by the heavenly thunders, and when Xiaohua took half of it, she had already sensed it. However, right now, she was at the crucial point of transforming into a dragon. If she was careless, her soul might scatter. How could she still have the time to check on Xiaohua? And when Xiaohua's figure landed on the ground, Whitey had already withstood the first heavenly thunders. Just as she was about to fly over, a loud catcher sound rang out, and the second heavenly thunders struck down. This second heavenly thunders was a bit smaller than the first, and the trace of orange splendor was a bit thicker than the red splendor of the first heavenly thunders. Whitey knew that each heavenly thunders was stronger than the last, so she didn't dare to be distracted. She only tried her best to move her body, trembling slightly. Opening her mouth, she spat out another blue splendor, wanting to welcome the heavenly thunders. However, this splendor was clearly a lot fainter than the first wave. However, when the second heavenly thunders struck midair, another strange change occurred. Another half of the heavenly thunders were attracted by Xiao Hua, who had fallen on the mountain rock, and directly struck his already charred body. The cube of light flashed with another kind of fluctuation. Not only was the entire heavenly thunders absorbed by the cube of light, even the trace of orange thunder essence within the heavenly thunders was also absorbed by the light particles within the cube of light. The tribulation lightning was the punishment of heaven and earth. It contained the will of heaven and earth, and this will was the manifestation of the heavenly Tao. This second heavenly thunders was different from the first. Starting from the second heavenly thunders, it contained a trace of the heavenly Tao. Once the heavenly Tao entered the space behind Xiao Hua's head, it was like a fuse, and also like a kind of power. Within the space, there was a burst of thunder, and with a rumble, the entire space shook, as if something was attracted by the trace of the heavenly Tao within the heavenly thunders, slowly rotating. Such a strange change occurred in Xiao Hua's mind, but one couldn't see any difference on the outside. The Daoist robe on his body had long been destroyed, and his entire body was charred black. His entire life force was withdrawn into the space of his mind, supporting the changes of the heavenly Tao within the space. The little white dragon beside him was endlessly shocked. It really didn't know why the heavenly thunders were divided by Xiao Hua again and again. The only thing it could guess was that Xiao Hua was resisting the tribulation lightning for it. Suddenly, an incomparable gratitude arose in its immature heart. Little White was originally grateful to Xiao Hua. 3 years ago, Little White had succeeded in cultivating the dragonization ability. However, its original body was still a little white snake. Although it had cultivated for countless years in Shonghua Ming, when it shed its snake body and transformed into a dragon body, its cultivation was still far from the Xiantian level. During that lightning tribulation, which was not very powerful, it had suffered extremely serious injuries. It was almost impossible for it to survive. And just as Little White was about to fall, it encountered Xiao Hua in the cold pond. From Xiao Hua's body, it felt a kind of familiar aura. What was even more mysterious was that it was blessed with good fortune, and bit Xiao Hua's arm. Xiao Hua's blood saved Little White, and even brought forward the second tribulation lightning that it should have encountered after countless years of cultivation to today. Little White had long sensed the tribulation lightning, but it had always been suppressing itself, so this tribulation lightning didn't come for a long time. Tonight, Little White really couldn't suppress it, and had no choice but to face the tribulation. But what it didn't expect was that Xiao Hua, who gave it a second life, would actually face the tribulation for it again. This gratitude, although it was a demonic beast, was also engraved in its bones. -5. Chapter 1274. Although Xiao Hua had already taken away half of the heavenly lightning, the heavenly lightning was still not something that Little White could withstand. The golden heavenly lightning that was almost as thick as a bucket pierced through the light that Little White spat out, and once again hit Little White's body. Whitey's body trembled violently, and the dragon's roars came one after another. It was in extreme pain, and its entire body was rolling in the air. Dragon's blood seeped out from its body, dyeing Whitey's entire body red. After the second heavenly lightning, Little White was already lying limply in the air, as if it didn't have the slightest bit of magic power and strength. It was extremely weak. And in the tribulation cloud, the lightning was still flashing. The third heavenly lightning roared, and was about to strike. Little White raised its arrogant dragon head, and its lantern-like eyes unwillingly looked at the rapidly flashing red clouds in the air. It didn't expect that the second heavenly tribulation would actually be several times stronger than the first. The first time, it was able to withstand the third heavenly lightning, and this time, with Xiao Hua taking away half of the heavenly lightning, it was actually able to withstand the second heavenly lightning. Unfortunately, Little White was still just a demon beast. It didn't understand that no matter how powerful the dragon transformation art was, it was impossible for Little White to undergo the second heavenly tribulation within 3 years. The reason why Little White could undergo the heavenly tribulation was all because it sucked Xiao Hua's blood. But at that time, if Little White didn't suck Xiao Hua's blood, it would have already fallen into the cycle of reincarnation. How could it have another chance? Therefore, Xiao Hua's success, Xiao Hua's defeat, Xiao Hua's drinking and pecking, the way of karma. Little White was unwilling and unyielding. Its huge dragon head roared towards the sky, and then, with a shake of its head, a dark golden light spat out from its mouth, and directly shot towards Xiao Hua, and disappeared into Xiao Hua's body. Then, Little White's eyes shot out a resolute look, and it opened its mouth again. A pearl that was like a resplendent full moon was spat out from its mouth. It was the inner core that it had refined for countless years. The inner core flew out of Little White's mouth, and directly rushed into the air, just in time to welcome the third heavenly lightning, before the third bolt of lightning, which contained the yellow thunder marrow, could hit Little White's Niden. Half of it was absorbed by the light cube in Xiao Hua's head, while the other half struck the Niden. With a cracking sound, the blue radiance on the surface of the inner core was cracked by the heavenly lightning. Although Whitey was under the inner core and was not directly hit by the heavenly lightning, Whitey's body was as if it was punched by the might of heaven and earth. It shook violently and fresh blood dripped out. A large amount of dragon blood splashed onto Xiao Hua's already charred body. The third bolt of lightning was blocked by Little White's inner core. Only a small amount of lightning struck Little White's body. After this bolt of lightning passed, Little White's body was completely restored. Little White had completely turned into a dragon. However, Little White seemed to be exhausted and on the verge of death. But, at that moment, the tribulation clouds that had originally ended gathered once more, and the fourth bolt of heavenly lightning that contained the green lightning essence was shining and brewing. How could Xiao Yuhong, the leader of Shang Huaming, not know about such a lightning tribulation on Shihua Peak? When the lightning tribulation was formed, he was alarmed. Before his divine sense could sweep across Shihua Peak, it was immediately crushed by the pressure of the heavenly lightning. Immediately after, the entire Yellow Flower Ridge was covered by the tribulation clouds. No magic power or divine ability could be used. Therefore, Xiao Yuhong could only sit upright in front of the pill furnace, closing his eyes and holding his breath. He did not dare to use any magic power, for fear that the might of heaven and earth would affect him. Xiao Yuhong had also thought of Xiao Hua. However, he also knew that the more profound one's cultivation base was, the more sensitive they were to the lightning tribulation, and the greater the damage they would suffer. Xiao Hua was only at the second level of qi refining, and was the same as an ordinary person. It was impossible for him to sense the pressure of the heavenly lightning. Most likely, he thought it was just an ordinary rain of thunder, but he never imagined that on Shihua Peak, Xiao Hua had another, thrilling and lucky encounter. Zun Yunzi, Reverend Liu Ni and Fairy Ingzhua were very far away from Yellow Flower Ridge, but their escape light was extremely fast. When the fourth heavenly lightning struck, they had already arrived at the periphery of Yellow Flower Ridge. However, at this time, the entire Yellow Flower Ridge was covered by the tribulation clouds. Looking from afar, one could only see the flickering red clouds in the pitch-black sky, and the thick lightning bolts lingering and brewing in the red clouds. As for the scene inside Yellow Flower Ridge, it was all blocked by the innate divine restriction of the way of heaven. Although the three of them were great experts of the late nascent soul stage, they absolutely could not peep into it. As soon as they arrived at Yellow Flower Ridge and saw that the tribulation clouds had disappeared, Zun Yunzi was delighted. He transmitted his voice, "Fellow Taoists, with our speed, the tribulation clouds should have just struck down 3 heavenly lightning bolts." Although the tribulation of demon beasts is somewhat different from the tribulation of human cultivators, their general realms should be similar. As far as I know, this python dragon should be at the early spirit severing stage. After passing through this tribulation, it should reach the middle spirit severing stage. 3 heavenly lightning bolts and it can reach the middle spirit severing stage. This python dragon. I wonder how it cultivates. Fairy Ingzwa sighed casually. Zun Yunzi's expression did not change. He smiled and said, "Actually, I want more heavenly lightning bolts to strike down. The more heavenly lightning bolts there are, the more useful the python dragon's inner core will be to us. These 3 heavenly lightning bolts, just 3 heavenly lightning bolts. Fellow Daoist, you sure talk big." Reverend Liu Ni also transmitted his voice. Could it be that passing the tribulation is so easy in your eyes? Chichiao sect, Shonghua sect and Xuanyan sect were equal in strength in the country of Xi, so there were usually some disputes between them. As Fairy Ingzwa was a woman, Reverend Liu Ni was kind to her, but she was not so polite to Zun Yunzi. Zun Yunzi did not expect Reverend Liu Ni to make things difficult for him. He was slightly embarrassed and said, "Of course I care about the heavenly lightning bolts when we pass the tribulation. Otherwise, I would not have dragged you two to ask for the python dragon's inner core. It's just that, there is only one python dragon's inner core. If the 3 of us share it equally, it is still somewhat lacking to refine the true python dragon's inner core to improve our cultivation. I only hope that the more heavenly lightning bolts there are, the more effective the python dragon's inner core will be." Hearing Zun Yunzi's unusual admission of defeat, Reverend Liu Ni also understood the importance of today's action. She snorted coldly and said no more. Zun Yunzi squinted his eyes and glanced at the tribulation cloud. Just as he was about to say something, suddenly, the tribulation cloud that had already dispersed slightly flickered again, turning back into an orange color. The lightning bolts in the clouds flashed even more fiercely. However, those lightning bolts actually turned into a pure green color. The Tao of Heaven was the most just. Originally, Little White's tribulation was 3 heavenly lightning bolts. However, when the 3 heavenly lightning bolts fell, half of them were drawn away by Xiao Hua. Little White itself did not go through the complete test of the 3 heavenly lightning bolts. Therefore, when the lightning tribulation changed, an additional 4th heavenly lightning bolt was released. This heavenly lightning bolt was even more powerful, directly turning into a green heavenly lightning bolt. Hey! This is the 4th heavenly lightning bolt. Zun Yunzi's mouth was full of surprise, but his eyes were also filled with excitement. He knew clearly that the more heavenly lightning bolts there were, the better the python dragon's inner core would be. More importantly, the dragon transformation art would be more complete. I'm afraid this is the last heavenly lightning bolt. Let's quickly find a position and surround the entire yellow flower ridge to prevent the python dragon from escaping. Fairy Ingzwa transmitted her voice. Fellow Daoist, you are right. When a python transforms into a dragon, it shed its snake skin and become a dragon's body. There is a period of time when it is at its weakest. This period of time is extremely short. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity, I'm afraid we won't have another chance in the future. Most importantly, our auras will be remembered by this python dragon. In the future, we will have another doppelganger in the Xiaoyu continent. Do I need you to tell me that? Immortal Liu Hong transmitted his voice disdainfully. The greater the harvest, the greater the risk. Even mortals know this truth. How can we not know it? Well, in that case, we'll stick to our previous agreement. Each of us will guard one side. Zun Yunzi didn't say anything more. He waved his hand and flew to the northeast of Yellow Flower Ridge. Seeing that Zun Yunzi had left, Reverend Liu Hong and Fairy Yingzhou glanced at each other, then went in different directions. Before leaving, Fairy Yingzhou sent a message to Reverend Liu Hong. Fellow Daoist Liu Kong, Zun Yunzi seems to be a little different today. He usually confronts you with equal harshness. Why is he so patient today? Unless there is something else, it must be that he has gathered all the other materials to concoct the Python Dragon Pill and is only waiting for the Python Dragon's inner core. The Python Dragon Pill is one of the shortcuts to the Doppelganger realm. Although it only increases the chance of success by 30%, it is still worth the risk. Immortal Liu Hong seemed to have sensed something. You are absolutely right. Fairy Ingzhua transmitted her voice. Then they separated. Humph, you old bastard Liu Hong. Zun Yunzi flew to the place where he was, and he was already gnashing his teeth in hatred. Although a nascent soul grandmaster's state of mind was already perfect, he just couldn't stand the arrogance of the Seven Skills sect. Wait until I find the dragonization skill, cultivate my body to perfection, and successfully enter the doppelganger realm. Then, I will personally destroy your Seven Skills sect. Rumbled a burst of thunder, which was very different from the silence just now. Zun Yunzi was startled and thought to himself, I was just thinking. I didn't make any heart oath. When he raised his eyes and looked at the yellow flower ridge, the tribulation cloud changed again. The yellow flower ridge was originally covered by the innate divine restriction, so no sound or scene could be seen. But now, the innate divine restriction seemed to have collapsed. A chopstick-sized heavenly thunder streaked across the sky, like a centipede, and struck down. Although this heavenly thunder was much thinner, its color was almost pure green, which was different from the previous heavenly thunder. Around the heavenly thunder, countless small space cracks were torn open, showing the infinite power of this heavenly thunder. Roar! A huge dragon roar resounded through the whole yellow flower ridge. Zun Yunzi and the others who were in mid-air felt dizzy, and their bodies involuntarily fell from the sky. Zun Yunzi was shocked. He waved his hand, and an oval-shaped jade butterfly flew out from his sleeve. With a slight flap of its wings, it flew to Zun Yunzi's feet and supported him. The long sword in Immortal Liu Hong's hand turned into the shape of a dragon, and also caught Immortal Liu Hong's body when he lost his balance. Fairy Ying Zhuo was even more surprised. The 1,000 feathers rainbow-colored gown on her body emitted a colorful brilliance, and lifted her up into the air. When Fairy Ying Zhuo circulated her magic power and woke up from the dizziness, the last heavenly thunder had already disappeared without a trace. -5. Chapter 1275. When Zun Yunzi and the others fell, the little white dragon was roaring angrily. When it saw the green heavenly lightning, it felt that there was no chance of survival. It hardened its heart and spat out a dragon's breath to support the cracked inner core. After the green heavenly lightning split into half and was absorbed by Xiao Hua, it struck the inner core and shattered it into pieces. The little white dragon writhed in pain in the air. Countless cracks appeared on its newly formed dragon body. As Little White writhed, the cracks gradually tore apart and chunks of flesh fell from the sky. Clang clang clang, another burst of green heavenly lightning struck Little White's body. All the cracked flesh exploded again, and even Little White's bloody dragon head was split in half. But at this moment, something strange happened again. From the split dragon head, a dragon much smaller than the Little White dragon flew out. This dragon also had the appearance of Little White, but its entire body was illusory. This illusory form was different from the illusory form before the lightning tribulation. Every part of this dragon's body was intact and every tiny dragon scale could be seen. This was the Little White dragon that had completely passed the lightning tribulation. The Little White dragon rushed into the air and countless amounts of heaven and earth spiritual energy fused into its illusory body. It gradually condensed and formed a dragon body. The Little White dragon didn't care about this at all and directly rushed towards the inner core in the air. It opened its mouth and swallowed the shattered inner core into its stomach. The lightning tribulation is over. 4 bolts of heavenly lightning. The 3 were overjoyed. The more heavenly lightning there was, the higher the cultivation of the python dragon. Naturally, the inner core was worth such a huge risk. The 3 of them circulated their magic power and flew towards Yellow Flower Ridge. At this time, the tribulation clouds had already dissipated and the entire Yellow Flower Ridge was filled with chaotic heaven and earth spiritual energy. The heaven and earth spiritual energy was also filled with an extremely violent aura. It was as if an extremely small fireball technique could ignite the entire Yellow Flower Ridge. Zun Yunzi and the others were all late nascent soul stage cultivators and could already freely control the heaven and earth spiritual energy. This chaotic heaven and earth spiritual energy couldn't affect their abilities too much. When they saw the little white dragon that was about to swallow the inner core in the air above Shihua Peak, they were all dumbfounded. Is this a python dragon that just underwent its tribulation? Did it Did it fail to pass the tribulation? Reverend Liu Shu was extremely shocked. He transmitted the message to Zun Yunzi and Fairy Ying Zhuo. They were all late-stage nascent soul experts and were also figures standing at the pinnacle of Dawn Rain continent. What kind of bizarre scene had they not seen before? Although he hadn't transcended the tribulation, there were records in the sect's records. He had once observed others transcending the tribulation from afar. Although the tribulation of demonic beasts was different from the tribulation of cultivators, there was no difference in essence. Both were the heavenly thunder tempering body and the heavenly demons test. These tests were basically a test of one's physical body. Demonic beasts' physical bodies were even stronger, and they had gone through multiple heavenly tribulations. However, they had never heard of demonic beasts abandoning their physical bodies and existing in the form of soul essences after transcending the tribulation. Cultivators could only abandon their physical bodies when they failed their tribulations. Zun Yunzi was secretly delighted. He thought to himself, the dragonization incantation is indeed a supreme incantation. It's actually willing to abandon the physical body and reconstruct the dragon body. If I were to cultivate it, perhaps I would also be able to obtain a Xiantian body condensed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, there was no expression on his face. He only said in astonishment, "Yes, is this the python dragon's soul essence?" "Oh, no. Fellow Taoists, quickly look, this soul essence is condensing, as if. Quick, fellow Taoists, don't waste any time. Let's take advantage of the fact that this python dragon hasn't recovered and kill it quickly. It doesn't matter if it's a soul essence or something else. The core of the python dragon is the most important." Fairy Ying Zhuo sensed that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rapidly converging into the little white dragon's body. She felt that something was wrong and immediately transmitted a message to the two. "Zun Yunzi, you must know the reason." Reverend Liu Shu suddenly realized. "I definitely don't know. Fellow Daoist Liu Kong, this is not the time for us to be confused. If there's anything, let's talk about it after we get the python dragon's core." How could Zun Yunzi reveal the truth to him? With a wave of his hand, a chain with several tiny bells hanging on it flew out of his hand and towards the sky above the little white dragon. When the chain flew into the sky, it suddenly expanded. The several bells also clanked loudly. Several different sounds, which seemed to have the effect of absorbing souls, reverberated in the sky above the cherishing flower peak. When Reverend Liu Ni and Fairy Ying Zhuo saw Zun Yunzi take out his most powerful magical treasure, the soul-snatching chain bell, their expressions changed slightly. Their magic power surged and their bodies glowed faintly, blocking the sound of the bell that invaded their Dao hearts. Fairy Ying Zhuo and Reverend Liu Shu were not the targets of the soul-snatching chain bell. Just the sound of the chain was already so frightening, not to mention the little white dragon directly under the soul-snatching chain bell. The sound of the bell was like ripples on the surface of water, striking the little white dragon one after another, shaking the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around the little white dragon and disturbing the little white dragon's speed of absorbing spiritual energy. However, a strange scene occurred. When the bell sound fell on the little white dragon's body, the little white dragon did not suffer the pain that Zun Yunzi had imagined, nor did it roll on the ground. Instead, it slightly swayed its body, as if it was enjoying the sound. "This is bad." Seeing this, Zun Yunzi unconsciously stared blankly, but soon understood. This little white dragon is not in the form of a soul. It has just transformed into a dragon and condensed into a body, so it may not be able to hear any sound. My soul-snatching chain bell can indeed shake the soul, but what this little white dragon cultivates is the dragonization skill, which may be different from ordinary tribulation. Sound attacks won't work, and this python dragon's soul is also sturdy. Fellow Taoists, please make your move. Zun Yunzi immediately spread the word that Immortal Liu Yun and Fairy Ying Zhuo were here to help. At this moment, without delay, Fairy Ying Zhuo clapped her hand, and a slender, radiant stick flew out from the storage pouch on her waist. At the tip of the stick, a large flower bud was about to bloom. It was Fairy Ying Zhuo's favorite magic weapon, the Tyrant Spring Bud. Fairy Ying Zhuo held the Tyrant Spring Bud in her hand, and with a push of her magic power, The flower bud at the tip spiraled and gradually bloomed. As the flower bud bloomed, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surrounding sky surged and gradually condensed into a silken shape beside the flower bud. When the flower bud bloomed into a fresh flower, Fairy Yingzhe let out a thunderous roar, and as if she was pulling a heavy object, she slowly waved her hand. Countless thin silks near the flower bud streaked across the air, driving more spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings, and pounced on the little white dragon. As these thin silks streaked across the air, they made a lo-lo-lo sound, as if the space was about to be torn apart. The entire silks then transformed into a large net, which almost caught the little white dragon's huge body in one fell swoop. The little white dragon also seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. Its dragon body moved, and white clouds gradually formed under its body. This was the sign of dragon follows cloud and tiger follows wind. Unfortunately, the little white dragon had just crossed the tribulation, and its breathing was weak. Moreover, it had not been long since it became a dragon, and its dragon body had not yet condensed. It simply did not have the strength and magic power to escape. It could only hope that it could withstand the attacks of these 3 late Yuanying stage experts before its dragon body condense. The spiritual silks released by the tyrant spring bud covered the little white dragon's body without any suspense. Fairy Yingzhe's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. These thin silks were extremely powerful. If her cultivation could reach the dividing spirit stage or even cross the tribulation, she could almost tear the space apart. She had always been at an advantage when she used this tyrant spring bud to fight against her enemies. When others saw her using this magic weapon, they would either run far away or use other magic weapons to defend in the air. How would they dare to let the thin silks formed by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth touch their bodies? Seeing the little white dragon's dragon body twisting a few times, but the net still fell down, Zunyunzi's heart that should have been happy jumped for no reason. He felt that there should be something missing. Sure enough, when the net fell on the little white dragon's body, there was no scream as Fairy Yingzhe were expected. Instead, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, and there was no sound, not even a ripple. Oh no! Seeing this scene, Zunyunzi immediately understood the warning just now. This little white dragon was currently in the process of forming its body, and it was using the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This tyrant spring bud, no, even the magic weapons on his body were all using the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to attack. All the attacks that landed on the little white dragon's body would become the spiritual energy for its body forming. How could it be injured? No wonder this little white dragon did not panic. Not only did Zunyunzi understand, Fairy Yingzhe also understood, and her heart was abnormally angry. Roar with a dragon roar, the little white dragon swung its gigantic head around. A weak but tenacious divine sense swept past. Its 2 eyes, which were about to form, flashed with mockery. Fortunately, I's luck is profound, and I have an affinity with this python's inner core. If not for the 2 helpers today, I'm afraid I would have to return empty-handed. Zunyunzi's face was full of surprise, but his heart was secretly happy. Returning empty-handed is one thing, but after provoking this demonic beast of the spirit-severing stage, I'm afraid my Shonghua sect will never have a day of peace. Please. Fellow Daoist Liu Kong, make a move. Zunyunzi took out a few palm-sized jade pieces from his storage bag, and transmitted his voice to Liu Kong. Liu Kong coldly snorted, and flung the scabbard in his hand. An orange-yellow brilliance shone from his hand, and flew into the air. Zunyunzi, of course I will make a move. However, I have to say first, after this matter is done, I want 50% of this python's inner core. Not the previous 30%. Liu Kong slightly narrowed his eyes, and transmitted his voice. Also, fellow Daoist needs to tell me everything about this python. You. Zunyunzi obviously didn't expect Liu Kong to change his mind at the last moment, and was somewhat caught off guard. But looking at the flying sword that Liu Kong released, he could only clench his teeth, and said coldly, I have already told you about the python, and even if I say it again, it will still be the same. I can agree to your request of 50%, but I still need to ask Fairy Yingzhe's opinion. Chumph, what opinion can I have? Seeing Zunyunzi push the matter to her, Fairy Yingzhe sneered. Fellow Daoist Liu Kong has a dragon-slaying sword, after all. However, fellow Daoist Liu Kong's sudden change of mind will damage your reputation. -5. Chapter 1276. Ha ha ha, reputation is nothing, only the great Tao is real. Reverend Liu Shi laughed wildly and said, only I have this dragon-slaying technique. If you two fellow Taoists also have this technique, I will let you have it. Alright, fellow Daoist Liu Kong, we have agreed. Hurry up and do it. A long delay may cause trouble. Zun Yunzi saw that the little white dragon's body was becoming more and more solid. He couldn't help but feel anxious and urged. At the same time, Zun Yunzi also threw out the stones in his hand. The 4 stones occupied the 4 corners of the sky, trapping the little white dragon in the center. This is. Fairy Yingzhou frowned and looked at the 4 extremely ordinary stones while holding the useless wavy buds in her hand. She scanned them with her divine sense but didn't find any particularly strong spiritual energy. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. A sharp sword cry resounded in the sky. It was Reverend Liu Shi who activated his magic power to drive the dragon-slaying sword flying in the air. The dragon-slaying sword elongated in the air, about 10 feet long. Its orange-yellow splendor was misty. Reverend Liu Shi sat cross-legged in the air with his palms facing the sky. His face was first flushed, then turned into a waxy yellow color. Quick! Reverend Liu Shi shouted and released the sword spell in his hand. The dragon-slaying sword streaked across the sky with a piercing sound of wind, chopping straight at the little white dragon. The sharp sound of wind seemed to have already locked onto the little white dragon. The little white dragon's body turned rapidly, barely facing the dragon-slaying sword. It opened its mouth and spat out a weak water-blue splendor, forming a light screen to block the dragon-slaying sword. Unfortunately, the splendor was too weak. The little white dragon's cultivation base was only at the late stage of foundation establishment. How could it resist the full force attack of a late-stage Yuaniing expert? With a swish, the light screen was directly split open by the dragon-slaying sword, all the way to the bottom. The little white dragon tried to dodge, but it was still too late. The dragon's body, which couldn't be broken through by the soul-stealing chain bell and wavy buds, now appeared extremely fragile under the dragon-slaying sword. Crack! It struck the little white dragon's abdomen, and a large piece of flesh that had just formed was immediately cut off. Dragon flesh and dragon blood sprinkled all over Shihua Peak, raw. The little white dragon twisted its enormous body with all its strength because of the pain, then raised its enormous tail and slapped straight towards Reverend Liu Shi. Good timing. Facing the huge dragon tail, Reverend Liu Shu was not frightened at all. Instead, he was overjoyed. He sat upright and motionless, then changed his sword gesture. Following his move, an identical dragon-slaying sword was separated from the previous dragon-slaying sword and hacked horizontally towards the dragon tail of the little white dragon. Crack! In an instant, the sword and the dragon tail collided. The tremendous power of the dragon tail shook the dragon-slaying sword, and its orange splendor was almost disrupted. Meanwhile, the sharpness of the dragon-slaying sword had also shattered the dragon scales on the dragon tail and the strange talismans that had yet to form on the dragon scales. Go! Reverend Liu Shu's face slightly changed. His magic power surged, and he sent out another sword gesture. The dragon-slaying sword buzzed, and its splendor condensed again. Then, it rushed forward again. Swish! Just like before, a large piece of flesh fell down and sprinkled on Shihua Peak. Naturally, it also buried Xiao Hua's charred body, which had been struck by the heavenly thunder. Who is it? While watching Reverend Liu Shu's dragon-slaying skill, Zun Yunzi sensed that someone was spying on him with his divine will. He turned his head and scanned with his divine will. Then, he saw Xiao Yuhong, who had rushed out after sensing the disturbance on Shihua Peak. Meanwhile, Xiao Yuhong was hiding from the thunder tribulation in the alchemy room of Shihua Peak. That frightening thunder tribulation had made his heart tremble. It was not that there had never been a thunder tribulation in Yellow Flower Ridge before, but none of them were as frightening as this one. 4 heavenly thunders in a row almost made Xiao Yuhong lose his mind of doubt. He had no doubt that he would not be able to survive such a frightening thunder tribulation. After the 4 heavenly thunders ended, Xiao Yuhong waited for a while, but no more heavenly thunders were heard. Only then did he come out of the alchemy room, trembling with fear. This was Xiao Yuehong's fate. Just as he flew to Shihua Peak, he heard the roars of dragons and the sounds of fighting. This was the important place of Shang Huaming's sect. As the sect leader, how could Xiao Yuhong not investigate? However, when he flew into the air, he saw the huge white dragon in the sky and the dragon-slaying sword above it. Then, he sensed 3 nascent soul experts with his divine will. He could not help but have a bad feeling. Although Xiao Yuhong had never seen the 3 sect leaders of the country of Shi, he had heard people describe them. The 3 of them gathered together with Shang Huaming. This was a big event in the country of Shi. Moreover, the 3 of them were besieging a white dragon. Not to mention whether this white dragon belonged to Shang Huaming, just by seeing this scene, he did not know whether it would be a disaster or a blessing. Sure enough, just as Xiao Yuehong's divine will scanned the area, he was discovered by Zun Yunzi. Xiao Yuhong had a bad feeling and immediately fled. Zun Yunzi went deep into Shang Huaming's important place and killed his guardian spiritual beast. How could he be kind? Just now, he was afraid that the little white dragon would escape, so he did not kill Xiao Yuhong first. Now that Xiao Yuhong had appeared, how could he let him go? With a fierce glint in his eyes, he swung the soul-stealing chain bell in his hand into the air, sending a sound wave towards Xiao Yuhong. Although Xiao Yuhong was already far away from Shihua Peak, the soul-stealing chain bell, which had no effect on the little white dragon, was a supreme killing weapon in front of Xiao Yuhong. Xiao Yuhong had almost no strength to fight back. He had just cast a bead-like magic tool into the air when his body immediately flipped in midair. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and a net made of heaven and earth spiritual chi covered the sky from top to bottom. There was no resistance, and there was no pause. Xiao Yuhong, who was lying in the air, was cut into countless tiny pieces by the net, turning into flesh and blood, falling from the sky, in front of a late Yuanying stage cultivator. A foundation establishment stage cultivator was even more inferior than a qi refining stage cultivator in front of 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 a qi refining stage cultivator was simply like a baby in front of an adult. Xiao Yuhong did not have any chance to fight back before he was killed on the spot by the 2 late Yuanying stage cultivators. Immediately, Zun Yunzi and Fairy Ingzhua turned their heads indifferently, as if they were killing a small ant, and continued to pay attention to the little white dragon. At this time, the little white dragon's situation was worrying. The dragon-slaying sword was flying around the dragon's head, piercing towards the dragon's brain. There was no doubt that once the dragon-slaying sword pierced into the dragon's brain, the little white dragon would have no chance to survive. Roar tilde, the little white dragon roared again. It opened its mouth and spat out a water-blue brilliance. Within the brilliance, the Niden that had been smashed into pieces by the heavenly thunder had already fused by more than half. Good tilde good. Reverend Liu, she shouted again, and the dragon-slaying sword quickly pierced towards the Niden. Crack! The dragon-slaying sword pierced the Niden. When the Niden broke, the dragon-slaying sword also broke into thousands of pieces. Normally, the Niden of the little white dragon should not be so weak. Unfortunately, there were 3 heavenly thunders, and a different dark green heavenly thunder. The Niden that the little white dragon had painstakingly cultivated was already full of holes. How could it resist the sharpness of the dragon-slaying sword? And the magical power of a late Yuanying stage expert? Even the physical body that the little white dragon relied on to escape was also in great danger at this time. Seeing the dragon-slaying sword being shattered, Reverend Liu, she didn't seem to be worried at all, as if he had already had a plan in mind. Indeed, once Reverend Liu she changed his sword spell, those thousands of dragon-slaying sword fragments transformed back into tiny dragon-slaying swords one after another, transforming into a huge sword formation around the little white dragon, trapping the little white dragon in it from all direction. Sword formation? Seeing this, Zun Yunzi and Fairy Ingjua's expressions changed slightly. The magic formations of the Dawn Rain continent had always been a secret, and had been lost for a long time. Ordinary magic formations had been simplified into restrictive spells, and even the magic formations that had been passed down from generation to generation were specious. They only knew how to use them, but did not know how to create new ones, not to mention a sword formation. That was almost a legend among legends. Therefore, when they saw Reverend Liu Shi use the legendary sword formation, both of them felt a chill in their hearts, and became respectful and vigilant towards this fellow Daoist who could not distinguish between friend and foe. Sitting cross-legged, Reverend Liu Shi made a sword spell with both of his hands, using his divine sense, which was different from that of an ordinary late Yuanying stage expert, to drive the sword formation laid out by the dragon-slaying sword. Hundreds and thousands of tiny flying swords were flying in all directions, blocking all the space around the little white dragon, and gradually approaching the little white dragon. Frightened, the little white dragon gathered the Niden that had been destroyed by the dragon-slaying sword once again. Just when it was about to swallow it into its stomach, suddenly, outside the sword formation, in the four corners of the sky, 4 bright spots of light flashed like stars. Not only Reverend Liu Shi, but Fairy Ingjua was also stunned. They simply did not notice that Zun Yunzi, who was standing beside them, was making a spell with his hands, and 4 different spells struck on the 4 seemingly ordinary stones that he had laid out in the air just now. At this time, the stones had already changed from their usual appearance. Each of them was shining with a dark green brilliance, and within the brilliance, 4 balls of dark green liquid that had been melted into 4 balls were slightly swaying. Along with the swaying of the balls of liquid, countless amounts of spiritual chi of heaven and earth were absorbed by these 4 balls of liquid. Quick Zun Yunzi let out a clear shout, and a mouthful of his natal energy was spurted out. In front of Zun Yunzi, it divided into 4 balls of liquid, shua, 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 shua. 4 consecutive sounds rang out. The 4 balls of liquid were broken by Zun Yunzi's life essence. After the liquid exploded, it disappeared. A net of spirit energy suddenly formed from the liquid. Then, with each corner as the center, it spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the spirit energy from the 4 corners intertwined and wrapped around the sword formation and the small white dragon. Withdraw seeing the net of spiritual chi take shape, Zun Yunzi's face showed a hint of joy. He pointed his finger, and the net of spiritual chi suddenly produced an endless suction force. The Niden that was about to be absorbed into the little white dragon's stomach actually stopped under this suction force, and slowly moved away from the little white dragon. Jade Talisman Fairy Ingjua almost moaned in her heart. It's a 4-piece jade talisman. Although this jade talisman needs to be activated by Zun Yunzi's natal energy, and is at a disadvantage, but a spell that can encircle the little white dragon and absorb the Niden is definitely not something that Zun Yunzi can perform. -5. Chapter 1277. Immediately, Fairy Ingjua had the same doubts as Reverend Liu Shi. Is it worth so much effort for a mere python dragon's inner core? Judging from Zun Yunzi's preparation, it's complete. I'm afraid it's not something that can be done in a day or 2. Could it be? There's really some unknown secret behind this. Not to mention Fairy Ingjua's doubts outside the sword formation, little white dragon inside the sword formation was in imminent danger. The sword formation was approaching, and its inner core had been taken away by the huge suction force generated by the jade talisman. No matter how hard little white dragon tried, it was absolutely unable to contend against the sword formation with its current foundation establishment magical power. Little white dragon's body rolled for a while. Its dragon consciousness swept over Shihua Peak below. At this moment, the peak of Shihua Peak was in a mess. The flesh and blood of little white dragon's body during the tribulation were scattered all over the peak. Among the rocks, among the flesh and blood, Xiaohua was lying there like a dead person, without any breath. A sense of speechless tragedy arose in little white dragon's mind that had not yet fully matured. Little white dragon's body seemed to have been set off by a hurricane. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth within 1,000 feet crazily gathered into little white dragon's body. Even the net-like spiritual energy released by the jade talisman showed signs of being defeated. The sword formation of the dragon-slaying sword was also somewhat scattered. Quick tilde, this guy is going to use a great magical power. Zun Yunzi was shocked. He sent a sound transmission to Reverend Liu Shi, fellow Liu Kong, speed up the sword formation. Reverend Liu Shi swept a glance at Zun Yunzi. Without answering, he urged his magical power and divine sense to speed up the sword formation. It was not that he didn't want to speed up, but he was not very proficient in using this sword formation. Moreover, the sword formation itself was not complete. In addition, driving hundreds and thousands of dragon-slaying swords at the same time was already the limit of his divine sense. He wanted to speed up, but he couldn't. Little White Dragon's body was visibly expanding. When the dragon-slaying sword pierced into Little White Dragon's body was already bigger than before the tribulation. However, this was not the end. The dragon-slaying sword pierced into Little White Dragon's body, and that huge body expanded again. Boom tilde, a loud noise was heard, as if a huge bubble had burst in midair. Little White Dragon's body, which had long been condensed by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, suddenly expanded. And its newly formed flesh flew in all directions. The majority of the thousands of dragon-slaying swords that pierced into Little White Dragon's body was annihilated, and the remaining few swordses they were dimmed. They lost control of control, they flew Little White Dragon's body, scattered flew. Little White Dragon body, Little White Dragon's bodies. Little, A. Right after that, a 1-foot-tall nascent soul, clad in a strange armor, emerged from the top of Reverend Liu Kong's head. The nascent soul looked exactly the same as Reverend Liu Kong, except that it was also holding a tiny dragon-slaying sword. The nascent soul landed on the top of Reverend Liu Kong's head, its eyes shining with a furious light. With a wave of the tiny sword, the surrounding natural energies were easily mobilized. Hundreds of dragon-slaying swords, which had been knocked away by the little white dragon, flashed dimly and flew back to the tiny sword in the nascent soul's hand. When all the tiny swords fell into the tiny sword and disappeared, a half-broken flying sword appeared in Reverend Liu Kong's hand at the same time. The nascent soul above Little White Dragon's head glanced at the location of the sword formation, its face filled with surprise and bewilderment. Then, it sank down into Little White Dragon's body and disappeared. Fellow Daoist Sun Yun, that evil dragon is escaping. Little White Dragon opened his eyes and pointed his finger. Near the web-like spiritual energy released by the jade talisman, a faint dragon soul flashed rapidly, fleeing towards the north. This. Fairy Ying Zhuo was even more shocked. She was also one of the top 3 experts in the country of Xi, and also a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. What she had seen and heard was absolutely extraordinary. But, she did not expect that Little White Dragon, in such a desperate situation, could still escape with its soul. Zun Yunzi was shocked, but then a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He spat out another mouthful of his natal energy. The web-like spiritual energy that had been scattered by the explosion gradually stabilized. Part of the web wrapped around Little White Dragon's inner core, while the other part wrapped around Little White Dragon's soul. I will help you. Fairy Ying Zhuo knew that Zun Yunzi was hiding something, so she certainly would not let go of such a good opportunity. With a wave of her hand, another web of spiritual energy also wrapped around Little White Dragon's soul. Fellow Daoist, please wait. Zun Yunzi was anxious and transmitted his voice. Fellow Daoist, have you forgotten that this evil dragon can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to form an attack? Fairy Ying Zhuo disagreed and snorted coldly. Your jade talisman can be used, but I can't use my magic weapon. While they were talking, the web had already crossed the web formed by the jade talisman and was much faster. Alas! Zun Yunzi fiercely stamped his foot in the air and said in a strange tone, I's jade talisman can only control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, not attack, so it can control the suction force and suck in Little White Dragon's inner core. In addition, because this jade talisman can control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it can also confine the space. Little white dragon's soul cannot escape. Ah! A jade talisman made by a spirit-severing cultivator? Confine the space was a magical ability that only spirit-severing cultivators could use. If this spell was not sealed in the jade essence by a spirit-severing cultivator, how could it confine the space? Little white dragon's inner core had already escaped to the edge of the jade talisman's web, but because there was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings and all the space was confined, it could not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Therefore, it looked at the thin web and did not dare to collide with it. Under Fairy Yingzhua's web, little white dragon's inner core flashed a bright light. When the web fell, it immediately turned into pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth and was absorbed by the inner core. With a hoo sound, little white dragon's inner core seemed to have taken a strong elixir and suddenly became bigger. Then, it immediately collided with the jade talisman's web. When it got closer, the inner core suddenly changed its shape. It became an extremely thin and long strip, like a long iron needle, and fiercely pierced into the web. With a puff sound, a thin and tall bulge was pushed out of the web. However, the web was abnormally tough and could not be pierced through. Zun Yunzi sneered in his heart. From his storage bag, he took out a black bracelet made of unknown material and threw it into the air. The black bracelet quietly flew towards little white dragon's inner core. A strong suction force was generated, trying to pull little white dragon's inner core into the bracelet. Soul-absorbing ring. At this time, immortal Liu Ni stood up in the air. With a sneer in his eyes, he sent a sound transmission to Zun Yunzi. Fellow Zun Yunzi, could it be that, from the beginning, you wanted this evil dragon's inner core? When? Zun Yunzi flatly denied. This soul-absorbing ring belongs to old man Mo Sang. He would not lend it to others. Fellow Zun Yunzi even took it out. If you did not plan to do so, how could we believe you? Fairy Yingzhua also sent a sound transmission with a smile. Although the three Yuanying experts had not obtained little white dragon's inner core and soul essence, they already had a certain disagreement. It was no wonder that little white dragon's inner core could not resist the suction force of the soul-absorbing ring. It was directly sucked into the soul-absorbing ring. When Zun Yunzi and the others saw this, they naturally knew that the soul-absorbing ring was specially designed to deal with soul essences. Little white dragon's inner core would definitely not survive. Therefore, they relaxed their vigilance. Unfortunately, something unexpected happened again. When little white dragon's inner core was forcibly sucked out by the soul-absorbing ring from the net of the jade talisman, little white dragon's inner core paused at first, then gradually flew closer to the soul-absorbing ring. As the distance between the soul-absorbing ring decreased, little white dragon's inner core accelerated. When little white dragon's inner core was about 10 feet away from the soul-absorbing ring, little white dragon's inner core suddenly exerted its strength and rapidly crashed into the soul-absorbing ring. With the two forces superimposed, that speed was almost invisible to the naked eye. Oh no! Although Zun Yunzi was trying to shirk responsibility to Liu Ni Zhenren and Fairy Yingzhua, his divine sense had been paying attention to the soul-absorbing ring. When little white dragon's inner core suddenly accelerated, he was puzzled at first. However, when little white dragon's inner core approached the soul-absorbing ring, it suddenly changed its direction slightly and flew past the soul-absorbing ring. Because little white dragon's inner core was extremely fast, and the force it produced was also incomparable to the suction force of the soul-absorbing ring. Therefore, the soul-absorbing ring was unable to suck in the soul-absorbing ring for a while. Seeing little white dragon's soul essence escape from the soul-absorbing ring, Zun Yunzi immediately formed a seal and wanted to reverse the direction of the soul-absorbing ring. However, the speed of the soul essence was too fast. Before he could reverse the soul-absorbing ring, the soul essence had already shot into the net formed by the jade talisman. This time, it was different from last time. With an extremely fast speed, it produced a great force and pulled the net extremely long. With a light puff, before Zun Yunzi could spit out his life essence again, the soul essence pierced a very small hole in the net formed by the jade talisman. A tiny hole. That was enough. Little white dragon's inner core pierced through the net and rapidly shot into the distance. Zun Yunzi was alarmed. He stretched out his hand and slapped his forehead. Sun Yunzi's nascent soul also emerged from the top of his head and transformed into a beam of light that chased into the distance. Although the beam of light was much faster than Sun Yunzi and the others' physical bodies, it was still too slow compared to Little White Dragon's inner core. Sun Yunzi's nascent soul chased for only a dozen or so kilometers before it lost track of Little White Dragon's inner core. With no other choice, it returned in the direction of Shihua Peak. Just as nascent soul flew to the side of Shihua Peak, it heard a voice. Eldest senior brother, when did our Yellow Flower Ridge have a baby? It was the voice of Shang Huaming's second disciple, Zhong Qingxiao. Hey, where? Did Master go out and pick up another one? Gong Mingwei's voice also sounded. There Zhong Qingxiao casually pointed. Ah, nascent soul? Gong Mingwei was shocked. What? Nascent soul? Boss, don't scare me. Since when did our Yellow Flower Ridge have a nascent soul senior? Zhong Qingxiao clearly didn't expect to see a nascent soul expert near Shihua Peak. Greetings, senior. Gong Mingwei hurriedly bowed in a panic. Sun Yunzi clearly knew about these two disciples. Sun Yunzi's nascent soul's eyes flashed with ruthlessness as it waved its two small hands towards the sky. Two lightning palms formed in its hands and struck Gong Mingwei and Zhong Qingxiao's bodies. The two pitiful people were only at the 11th stage of qi refinement. How could they be a match for Sun Yunzi's nascent soul? Before any thoughts could form in their minds, a burst of intense pain came from their chests. -5. Chapter 1278. The vision of the two turned dark as they fell from Xiao Yuehong's flying boat. One of them landed on a rock on Cherishing Flower Peak and was no longer breathing. The other fell into the cold pond on Cherishing Flower Peak and disappeared without a trace after being hit by the water. They had truly died without a burial ground. After killing the two, Sun Yunzi's nascent soul did not stop at all. When the two were struck by the lightning, Sun Yunzi's nascent soul had already sensed that they had lost their vitality. Immediately, it flew up into the air and entered Sun Yunzi's body. Liu Hong and Fairy Yingzhua had already seen Sun Yunzi's nascent soul kill people. When Sun Yunzi's nascent soul flew back, Liu Hong clapped his hands and said, "Good, fellow Daoist Sun Yunzi is indeed a good schemer. You've wiped out Shang Huaming's entire sect and captured his sect's guardian spiritual beast. How admirable. Fellow Daoist Liu Hong, you're too kind. You don't need the evil dragon's inner core." Sun Yunzi's face was expressionless, but his eyes were full of sarcasm. "I deserve the most credit for killing the evil dragon, so the inner core is half of eyes." Liu Hong sneered, "As for killing Shang Huaming's descendants, I didn't do anything." "Why can't I say anything? Who said I killed Shang Huaming's descendants? Xiao Yuehong's daughter is not in Yellow Flower Ridge, and I didn't intend to kill them either." Sun Yunzi sneered as well. "You've killed the sect leader and two disciples, leaving only a little girl behind. How can Shang Huaming still exist?" Liu Hong smiled faintly. "Fellow Daoist Sun Yunzi, why don't you find the little girl and kill her? You don't have to worry about leaving her in this world. Hihi, maybe in the future, when she cultivates a supreme divine ability, she'll come to you for revenge." Sun Yunzi's eyes narrowed, and he sneered, "I was going to find the little girl and kill her, but since fellow Daoist Liu Hong is so enthusiastic, I don't want to hurt her at all. Tonight, there are only 3 of us in Yellow Flower Ridge. Do you think I's afraid of being exposed? Fellow Daoist Liu Hong, I wonder if fellow Daoist Liu Hong has taken a fancy to that little girl's aptitude. Do you want to recruit her into the sect? Bah, my 7 Possibilities sect has plenty of people with such unbearable aptitude. Why would I covet her aptitude? Fellow Daoist Sun Yunzi, you'd better hurry up and give the inner core of the evil dragon to I, Reverend Liu," she said coldly, no longer trying to infuriate Sun Yunzi. Sun Yunzi pondered for a moment and asked, "Of course I'll give you the inner core, but I would like to ask, if you're taking the inner core to refine the Python Dragon Pill? Strange, what will I do with this inner core? Do I have to tell you, fellow Daoist?" Reverend Liu Ni sneered. Zun Yunzi looked at the slightly white sky and turned to ask Fairy Yingzhe, "Where is my friend?" Fairy Yingzhe said calmly, "I naturally want to refine the Python Dragon Pill, but, fellow cultivator, you sent the news too late. In a hurry, I can't prepare all the materials needed to refine the Python Dragon Pill. I am still thinking whether this inner core can be used for other purposes." Well, fellow Daoist Yingzhe is right. However, this evil dragon's inner core is the most effective for refining the Python Dragon Pill, and it's also the most useful for us. If it's used to refine other pills, it'll be a waste. Fairy Yingzhe's heart skipped a beat, and she transmitted her voice, "Fellow Daoist Zun Yunzi, what do you mean?" "Haha, it's nothing. I have been paying attention to this evil dragon's movements for a long time, so my preparations are very complete. So, if fellow Daoist Yingzhe is not worried, you can give your inner core to I, and after I refine the Python Dragon Pill, I'll give it to fellow Daoist Yingzhe. What do you think?" "Oh, of course." Fairy Yingzhe was slightly stunned, and after thinking for a while, she asked curiously, "But I don't know, what are your conditions?" Zun Yunzi smiled, but did not agree. He turned to ask Reverend Liu Shi, "Fellow Daoist Liu Kong, what do you think?" Like Fairy Yingzhe, Reverend Liu Shi thought for a while, and asked, "Fellow Daoist Zun Yunzi, please tell us your conditions first." "Fellow Daoist Yingzhe, and I will listen to it first." "Haha, it's nothing. I have a few disciples who practice body refining, and they need the blood and flesh of this evil dragon. So, I want to bring the blood and flesh of this evil dragon back to the Shonghua sect, and use it as the price for refining the Python Dragon Pill for you too. What do you think?" Reverend Liu Shi turned to look at Fairy Yingzhe, and he was a little puzzled. Although the blood and flesh of this little white dragon had passed through the Thunder Tribulation, and was a precious material for refining pills, refining weapons, and even body refining, it had too few uses. Compared with the inner core of this little white dragon, it was really insignificant. He did not know why Zun Yunzi was interested in the blood and flesh of this little white dragon. Of course, he knew that even if he asked, Zun Yunzi would not explain, so he had to say awkwardly, "Fellow Daoist Zun Yunzi's request is really difficult for I originally wanted to take advantage of you too." Hearing this, Zun Yunzi was so angry that his lungs were about to explode, and he cursed in his heart. He knew that if he did not mention it, Reverend Liu Shi might not mention it, but he wanted to find the trace of the dragon transformation skill from this blood and flesh, so it was impossible for him not to mention it. He did not believe that the essence of the little white dragon could take away the item that recorded the dragon transformation skill. However, Zun Yunzi's face did not have any color, and he only smiled insincerely and said, "Oh, since fellow Daoist Liu Kong is also interested in this useless blood and flesh, then, fine, I will not rob you. Fellow Daoist Liu Shi can take half of this evil dragon's inner core, and I will take the rest. When I refine the Python Dragon Pill, I will give a share to fellow Daoist Yingzhe. As for the blood and flesh of this Python dragon, just divide it into 3 parts, and each of us will have one." Hearing this, Reverend Liu Shi rolled his eyes and hesitated. "Well, you two fellow Taoists don't need to argue." Fairy Yingzhe knew that it was time for her to speak, so she said with a smile, "I have never seen the blood and flesh of an evil dragon that has gone through the Thunder Tribulation. In my opinion, why don't we let fellow Daoist Zun Yunzi choose first, and when he has taken enough, I and fellow Daoist Liu Kong can take some of the rest. What do you think?" "Fellow Daoist Liu Kong? Well, very good. My sect also needs to strengthen the training of body refining disciples, so I have to take some of this blood and flesh." Reverend Liu Shi laughed, and his face was full of embarrassment. "Well, since both of you need it, how can I not fulfill your wish?" Zun Yunzi laughed. He pointed his finger, and the jade talisman with the inner core of the little white dragon in it flew over. Zun Yunzi put the inner core into a jade bottle, and pasted a yellow talisman on it. Then, he took out an alms bowl-like object from his storage bag. He raised his hand, and it flew into the air. Puff! He spat a mouthful of air on the alms bowl. The alms bowl flashed with a misty brilliance, and suddenly expanded. Quick! Zun Yunzi cast a spell, and the mouth of the alms bowl pointed downwards, emitting a white brilliance from its mouth. Go! Zun Yunzi shouted again. The alms bowl emitted a white light, and flew up from the summit of Cherishing Flower Peak. In just a moment, the blood and flesh of the little white dragon were all sucked into the alms bowl. Reverend Liu Shi looked at Fairy Ying Zhuo, and both of them had some understanding in their eyes. Reverend Liu Shi secretly transmitted his voice, "Fellow Daoist Ying Zhuo, this Zun Yunzi took out the soul-absorbing ring and the immemorial bowl, so it must be not simple. Fellow Daoist, have you noticed anything? I also felt that something was not right, but..." Zun Yunzi did not reveal any flaws, which made I puzzled. Fairy Ying Zhuo also felt helpless. Not long after, Zun Yunzi collected all of the little white dragon's blood and flesh. He pointed his finger at the immemorial bowl, and it flew back to his hand. After holding it in his hand, Zun Yunzi said with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, do you have any suitable magic treasures to store it?" Me. Reverend Liu Shi shook his hand, and a small storage bag flew out. "Just put it here." "Okay." Zun Yunzi pointed his finger, and several pieces of blood and flesh flew out from the immemorial bowl, and were put into the storage bag by Reverend Liu Shi. "Fellow Daoist Liu Kong, do you still want it?" Zun Yunzi looked at Reverend Liu Shi and asked. Reverend Liu Shi used his divine sense to check the storage bag, but found nothing unusual, and shook his head slightly. "Then, I thank fellow Daoist Liu Kong," Zun Yunzi said with a smile, and gave some of the blood and flesh to Fairy Ying Zhuo, and then put away the immemorial bowl. Zun Yunzi raised his eyes to look at Dongfang Yuxiao, and cupped his hands at them, saying with a smile, "I thank you for your help last night. As for the python dragon pills, when I collect them, I'll send a message to you, and give you your share." "Okay, then we'll have to trouble you, fellow Daoist Zun Yunzi." Reverend Liu Shi and Fairy Ying Zhuo cupped their hands in return. After saluting, Zun Yunzi made a hand seal, and his figure turned into a rainbow and flew away. Reverend Liu Shi and Fairy Ying Zhuo looked at each other, and also flew away. Only the blood-stained Shihua Peak was left, and it became brighter and brighter under the sunlight. After the meal, in midair, the space shook for a while, and a figure gradually showed up. It was Zun Yunzi, who was frowning in anger. Zun Yunzi showed up, and took off a 3-finger-wide, palm-length talisman from his body, and carefully put it into his storage bag. He released his divine sense, and looked in the direction where Reverend Liu Shi and Fairy Ying Zhuo left. He gave a cold snort, and then set his eyes on Shihua Peak. Zun Yunzi's spiritual sense followed his gaze and carefully searched Cherishing Flower Peak, Mincy Peak, and other places. After a full 2 hours, Zun Yunzi still did not find the dragonization art that he was looking for. Strange, there is no dragonization art in the evil dragon's flesh and blood, and its soul essence cannot be taken away. Could it be, this poor Daoist misjudged? This evil dragon doesn't practice the dragonization skill? That's possible. The dragonization skill is the supreme skill of demon beasts. How could it appear in my Dawn Rain continent? Or in a small school in this deviated place? But, if it's not the dragonization skill, then how do you explain the various abnormalities of the evil dragon? Zun Yunzi thought for a while, but he still couldn't figure it out, and his face became darker and darker. Thinking that he gave up the Python Dragon core for the dragonization skill, Zun Yunzi's anger came from nowhere. Catcher! Catcher! Several loud sounds were heard. Zun Yunzi stretched out his left and right hands, and several thunder palms hit the peak of Shihua Peak. Rumble! The power of the thunder palms was so great that the entire Shihua Peak collapsed. Xiao Hua's charred corpse was also crushed under the rubble. -5. Chapter 1279. Damn it! Zun Yunzi shouted angrily. He took out the palm-sized talisman from his storage bag and used his magic to stick it on his body. Zun Yunzi's body immediately disappeared. Only a gust of wind could be heard. Zun Yunzi must have gone far away. A long while later, Reverend Liu Shi and Fairy Ying Zhuo showed up separately. Both of them frowned and looked at the messy Shihua Peak, then used their spirit powers to scan Shihua Peak and the other peaks. Only then did they leave empty-handed, just like Zun Yunzi. On Shihua Peak, at the bottom of the pile of rubble, Xiao Hua's charcoal-like body was motionless. There was no sign of life at all. He was no different from a corpse. However, in the space behind Xiao Hua's head, there was a change that Zun Yunzi and others couldn't even dream of. In that space, the light source of the cube stopped there quietly. It didn't rotate like before. Above the light source, in the distance, there was a sky canopy like the night sky. In that sky canopy, there were countless stars. They were all flickering. These stars weren't static. Instead, they were slowly rotating along one or several indescribable, obscure, and mysterious trajectories. It seemed that this rotation had existed since ancient times. It also seemed that this trajectory had existed long before this space was formed. This was the heavenly Tao starry sky that was driven by the heavenly Tao contained in Little White Dragon's thunder tribulation. Compared to before, the heavenly Tao's rotation was obviously much slower. However, in the slowness, the traces of the heavenly Tao became more obvious. All kinds of subtle details were gradually revealed. The heavenly Tao's chaotic, mellow, and ubiquitous characteristics were undoubtedly revealed. Under the heavenly Tao, although the light source of the cube was stagnant, a golden shadow was projected from the light source. It looked like a human but not a human. That shadow stood in the space. It was unknown whether it was a hand or a foot. It was inexplicably gesturing there. This gesture seemed to be a fist or a foot. It also seemed to be a magic art. Every time it moved, a red brilliance was transmitted from one part of the shadow's hand and foot to another part. When the shadow stood still, that brilliance just happened to pass through the shadow's hand and foot. The golden light of the shadow also slightly swelled, seemingly sending out a kind of fluctuation. Then, the shadow moved again. This time, it made a different movement. An orange brilliance appeared. It was still transmitted through the shadow's hand and foot along with the shadow's movements. When the shadow stopped, it transmitted through the entire hand and foot. The golden light of the shadow also changed into another kind of fluctuation. This process was repeated 7 times. The brilliance turned from red to orange, then yellow, green, cyan, blue, and finally purple. Every time it changed color, the fluctuation of the golden light would also change. When the purple brilliance passed through the shadow's hands and feet, the shadow was no longer golden. Instead, it was red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The colors were constantly changing, and as the colors changed, the shadow's wave also changed. In the end, the shadow turned black, and the wave of the shadow became extremely strange. But at the same time, a pure white dot appeared somewhere in the shadow. The white dot spread extremely quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the shadow turned white, almost transparent. The shadow's fluctuations also became very familiar. Suddenly, a ray of light shot out from the cube's light source. The white shadow swayed slightly and actually melted into the ray of light and disappeared. Xiao Hua's consciousness seemed to exist, yet it also seemed to not exist. It seemed to remain within this space, yet it also seemed to be the entire space. In short, Xiao Hua's consciousness was clear about the changes in the entire space. Light escape. This is actually light escape, using light as an escape technique. This is really unimaginable. Xiao Hua's consciousness did not have any form. It seemed to be a small dot in this space, yet it also seemed like the entire space was Xiao Hua. But this was not the main point. The main point was that no matter what form it took, it could not stop him from thinking. I've only heard of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth escape techniques. Hey, how do I know about this? Could it be? Xiao Hua's consciousness swept across the still light source in the space, which was like a blazing sun. This thing is actually called tracing light. Not only did the golden shadow shoot out from this tracing light, it seemed like a lot of things had rushed out from this tracing light. The reason why I know about the 5 elements escape technique was also because it was transmitted from inside just now. Could it be, my memories from the past 10 years were all hidden inside this tracing light? This is strange. This tracing light clearly has nothing to do with me. How did my memories run inside? Furthermore, if you gave it to me, then just give it to me. Why did you give me some vague and incomplete things? You only said light escape technique. You only told me that I had to first cultivate the 5 elements escape technique and use different fist techniques or body refining techniques as the foundation of the 5 elements escape technique to temper my bones. Only then can I cultivate the light escape technique by refining the 7 colors of my bones. Oh, that's right. It seems like in the bone refining 7 colors, every time the color changes, the fluctuation changes, it has to be guided by the 5 elements origin. What are these 5 elements origin? Where did this tracing light come from? Where did this space in my mind come from? Also, the starry sky above this tracing light looks very familiar. They didn't seem to exist before. How did they appear? Xiao Hua's consciousness had already started to become confused. There were really too many secrets that he did not know. However, he immediately thought, my cultivation is low and I don't have any ability to protect myself. The only sure kill skill I can rely on is to use force to break through. And this requires close combat. Since I have to get close, speed is the most important thing. This light escape technique. If I can cultivate it successfully, my speed will be extremely fast and I will be able to kill with one strike. Even if I can't succeed, I can still escape far away and there will be no need to worry about my life. Cultivating this light escape technique should be the most important thing. Hey! This incomplete snake-shaped ring, why is there something else? Xiao Hua's consciousness noticed that within the space, the snake-shaped ring that he had always been unable to figure out its origin had already been mended. It was a swaying dragon tail. At first glance, it was somewhat similar to the tail of the deity in Xianghua Ming's inheritance palace. Just as Xiao Hua's consciousness noticed that snake-shaped ring, an inexplicable handwriting and symbols came out from that ring and entered Xiao Hua's consciousness. Dragon transformation art? What's this thing? Xiao Hua's consciousness was slightly startled. It seemed that his entire consciousness had been occupied by the dragon transformation art. Xiao Hua's consciousness did not dare to be negligent. Just like how he usually comprehended the art, the entire space became still as he carefully comprehended the thing that was transmitted to him. Just like this, the space in Xiao Hua's mind was completely silent. Tracing light was also still stagnant. Only that golden figure repeated its previous actions over and over again. The colors on its body also changed one after another until finally, it slowly disappeared and was absorbed into the tracing light. Time passed very quickly and also very slowly. After an unknown amount of time, the tracing light's brilliance flashed and the fluctuations reappeared. Then, it started to rotate again. Only this time, the rotation was different from before. It actually followed the trajectory of the heavenly Tao in the starry sky. It was even more profound and obscure. On Cherishing Flower Peak, the sun was still shining. However, under the sprinkling of the sunlight, the peak's peak was filled with gravel. It had long lost its previous beauty and variety. The gravel had been piled up for many days without any signs of movement. At this time, the gravel suddenly moved. First, it slightly protruded and then fell down. Then, that protrusion rose again. The gravel around the protrusion rolled to the side, creating a series of noises. After a few repetitions, that protrusion suddenly rushed up. The gravel crashed and rolled in all directions, creating an extremely loud noise. What followed that protrusion was an extremely black human figure. That human figure landed on the gravel. Under the sunlight, one could see that it was completely charred black from head to toe. With a light ka sound, just as that human figure landed on the gravel, the mountain wind blew. A crack appeared on that human figure's charred skin. Soon after, more and more cracks appeared. Ka sounds were incessant. When the sound stopped, a gust of wind blew. Pieces of thin, charred black fragments fell from the human figure's body. What flowed out was a white, smooth. Xiao Hua first looked around in confusion. When the fragments fell to the ground and the mountain wind hit his body, he came to his senses. With a swipe of his left hand, He took out a daoist robe from the space and quickly put it on. As he passed it around, he muttered, "Fortunately, this young master's moral quality is good. I've already prepared a daoist robe. Otherwise, I don't know which girl would have benefited from this robe." Just as his voice fell, Xiao Hua's expression immediately became strange. He quickly covered his mouth with his hand. His eyes spun around as he thought, what's wrong with me? How can I casually say this? In this yellow flower ridge, other than senior sister, what other girls are there? If this was heard by second senior brother, wouldn't I be in trouble? While thinking, he unconsciously patted his forehead with his hand. Ayo, where's my hair? Why is this young master's hair gone again? Xiao Hua howled in grief. At the same time, he muttered in his heart, why is it gone again? Could it be that it also happened before? After putting on the daoist robe properly, Xiao Hua continued to look at the mess in front of him. Is this still Shi Hua Peak? How did the peak of the mountain become like this? Xiao Hua jumped down from the pile of rubble and looked at the dark brown mountain rocks under his feet. There were obviously some bloodstains. When he looked to the side, there were even more. Could it be Little White's bloodstains? Xiao Hua was stunned. He recalled the matter of him fainting. Little White? Little White is actually a dragon? Xiao Hua frowned. Dragon transformation art. Could it be related to Little White? That's right. Was Little White undergoing the lightning tribulation last night? Were these bloodstains left behind by Little White? Little White, did it pass the lightning tribulation? Xiao Hua felt a burst of worry in his heart. He thought for a moment and secretly said in his heart, I'd better go and ask the sect master. The commotion last night was so big, how could the sect master not know? There are more and more things in my mind. Should I tell the sect master? Xiao Hua's heart was perturbed. He thought about the light evasion art and the dragon transformation art as he flew towards Mint's worship peak. That brat you, who are you? Suddenly, a voice came from midair. -5 You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.